Please take your seats. The meeting is about to begin. Remember to speak into the microphone, as this meeting is being recorded for public record. Please stand by. We are going on air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to good morning, afternoon, depends what time you wake up. As the father of a 7-year-old that starts work pretty early, you know, this is mid-afternoon for me. But I really want to thank, we have a big audience here. I appreciate everybody being active, being involved. We received a lot of emails. I assume that a lot of people are here on the 41st Street traffic circle. I invite a lot of public comment, a lot of outreach. If things are just being repeated, feel free to, we don't all have to regurgitate or rehash the same talking points. I obviously see that there's a lot of interest in this in the community. Where I'm probably at before even hearing this is we obviously need more feedback in a proper setting to really see how we best move forward with this. So I don't think that we're going to execute any type of decision here today, but clearly that we need more community feedback. So I'm going to hand it over to our CFO. We're going to hear that item probably second, if okay. I want to be sure to hear you all and then get you on with your beautiful Friday. We do have a time certain at 10:30 to hear about the FIFA World Cup coming to Miami. If it wasn't for already given that time certain, I would certainly hear your item first. So let me go over to our city CFO and then our city attorney to introduce us, and then we'll get on the way.
Good morning or afternoon, as the case may be. Today's meeting of the Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee has been scheduled in a hybrid format, with a quorum of the committee physically present and remaining members, staff, and members of the public appearing either in person or virtually via Zoom. In order to participate in today's meeting virtually, members of the public may dial 1-888-475-4499 toll-free and enter the webinar ID, which is 863-6059-5462. Or log into the Zoom app and enter the webinar ID, which again is 863-6059-5462. Any individual wishing to speak on an item must click the raise hand icon if they are using the Zoom app, or dial *9 if you are participating by phone.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of announcements. As you mentioned, we have a time certain at 10:30 for NB12. We have a time certain of 12 noon for NB16. And then items NB10 and 15 are deferred till the December meeting. And if we do hear NB8, 9, and 11 would be linked together. That is all. Thank you. And then I'll announce the first item, sorry. NB12. NB12, discuss the creation of incentives to establish Miami Beach as the local hub for World Cup 2026. NB12.
Excellent. Welcome, Lizette. I'm going to hand it over to you, but this is an item I think the city and our region, our country is collectively excited about. It's with great pride and pleasure that Miami will be one of the host cities for the 2026 World Cup. So while Miami often finds ourselves on a global stage, I'm not sure if any stage gets bigger than the FIFA World Cup, which we are set to host here in 2026. So Lizette, let me turn it over to you and your team, and we'll see where we're going with this.
Sure. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Lisa Arrogante, Director of Tourism and Culture, City of Miami Beach, committee members. 2026 is really setting up to be the year of sports in Miami Beach, Miami-Dade County. And we have FIFA World Cup. They're going to be in Miami-Dade County in 2026, and they're set to host 7 matches at Hard Rock Stadium. These will include group stage games, a quarterfinal, and a third-place match, all scheduled between June 15th through July 18th of 2026. Beyond the matches at Hard Rock Stadium, other venues in the county expected to hold official World Cup events include the Miami Beach Convention Center, Bayfront Park in Miami, and the Barry University Miami Shores. In September, Miami-Dade County Board of County Commissioners approved to provide a cash sponsorship in an amount of $10.5 million in their fiscal '25 budget that will be granted to the GMCBB for Fan Fest activations, volunteer programs, transportation services, and other public safety activations that are associated with FIFA World Cup matches in the county. A condition of the $10.5 million cash support grant, the grant agreement with the GMCBB shall require a focus on funding local programs with local businesses in the county and to provide a report to the board on fundraising activities. The county also provided that the GMCBB will be the sole authorizer and recipients of the future funds under the agreement. The Tourism and Culture Department has received a special event permit from FIFA World Cup 2026 Host Committee to hold a series of events, both private and public, in Loomis Park during various weekends, and includes from 7th to 10th Streets and 10th to 14th Streets, east and west. So that includes Loomis Park and the beachfront proper. And today we have representatives from the FIFA World Cup Host Committee. We have Mr. Ray Martinez, COO, and Ms. Randy Freeman, Executive Producer for all Fan Fest and events.
Excellent, and welcome to you both. And just for my colleagues in the audience, I think how we're teeing this up, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not going to be a specific quantified financial ask or participation today. You're going to run us through essentially what your side is envisioning, and then we're going to vote to essentially pass this over to staff to begin negotiating what this global stage in Miami Beach will look like and what type of participation agreement that we could look to essentially execute.
Correct.
So I hand it over to you, Ray and Randy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner and members of the committee, for allowing us to be here and talk about the FIFA World Cup. I'm not sure how the PowerPoint works here. I can see it.
EJ, you can bring it up, please.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Beautiful. So, as mentioned, the World Cup is coming to the North America and to the United States in June and July of 2026. The World Cup is one of those events that just is the most watched sporting event in the world. More than the Olympics, more than the Super Bowl, and I know we're very familiar with Super Bowls here, but more than any other activity. And this chart here shows a little bit of the graphics, of the amount of viewership that was expected for the World Cup. The World Cup in comparison to an NFL Super Bowl, which is 0.15 billion, the World Cup is over 5 billion people watching the tournament. This is the largest World Cup ever. There's more teams, there's more matches that are taking place, and Miami is hosting 7 of those matches. There's 16 cities across 3 countries, with Canada having 2 cities, Mexico having 3, and the United States having 11, with Miami being 1. As you can see up on the East Coast, it's Boston, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Kansas City, Houston, Dallas, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, for the United States cities. So there's a total of 104 matches for the World Cup over the tournament period. Again, 48 nations participating in the World Cup, and over 5 continents from teams coming here to North America to participate. The World Cup is uniquely diverse by football, as you can see, and football is a little new to me, but I think we all have seen the passion and the excitement that these matches are bringing. I mean, when Messi joined Inter Miami, I mean, it really turned around soccer here in South Florida. And, obviously Argentina is the defending World Cup champion. So, excited to have all that coming here. Just kind of comparison a little bit over the other 16 or other 15 cities. New York, New Jersey actually has the gold medal final. We have the bronze medal final. But the period, if you look at this chart here, of 33 days spans from our first match to our last match. So next to New York, New Jersey, we have the largest span for the match schedule going on. So that just means that more people are going to be in the community, more people are coming to town. A lot of these fans, when they come to follow their team or to support their team, stay for a while in the communities. And, we expect that. Obviously, there's a lot of excitement about Miami and South Florida. FIFA actually did an economic impact going into this, and these are the numbers they came out with. I personally believe these are super conservative numbers because I was the president of the Super Bowl host committee, and we did an economic impact after the Super Bowl. And so in 2020, for the Super Bowl, our economic impact number was $572 million. And that was for one match, one game, if you will, the Super Bowl game, one weekend. These are 7 matches spanned over 5 weeks. So it's not inconceivable to see, that it's going to be more than 1.3 billion, but that's the number that the economists came back with. But again, my own personal opinion, just from dealing with Super Bowls and seeing what happens here in South Florida, I think it'll be a lot more. Over 700,000 visitors coming to the region, 10,000 plus jobs that'll take place here in South Florida. Our priorities, for the matches here as a host committee, obviously are the 7 matches. But beyond that, we want to be part of the community. We want to, give access to football. We want to have a legacy program that involves the environment and the community with sustainability and, community outreach, and also providing access to football. That's one of the big critiques that the United States gets as it relates to soccer, that it's a pay-to-play type of system, and that people have to pay in order to be able to play with different clubs or with different facilities. We want to be able to offer that, obviously, free to charge to our youth in the communities. And so we are working very hard with different nonprofits on not only building pitches and building fields and building access for the hard, facilities, but also having the programming to go on beyond after the games are here. So we're looking at a 3-year programming cycle for, the pitches that we're going to be involved in. And certainly, Miami Beach, we'd love to have as part of that with us. Again, infrastructure development, youth programming, community engagement. We're also working with and trying to get global sponsors, that are interested in coming in and partnering with us to, be a part of this. There's a lot of big names, obviously, that FIFA has that have shown interest or expressed interest in being part of the Miami, World Cup as well. So not only are they FIFA sponsors on a global stage, but they understand the value of South Florida and the market here. And those are, brands like Adidas, Coca-Cola, Hyundai, Qatar Airlines is the host airline, and there's a number of global sponsors, but worldwide global brands that are interested and very excited really about being part of Miami.
And Ray, just with the utmost respect, we'll speed through this just so we can get to the host of residents here as well.
Okay. We talked about sustainability. That's part of our legacy. And then our City of Miami partnership, we talked the other day, we really want it to be a partnership, not us coming in and telling you what we're going to do, but really getting the feedback from you of how do we make this better? How do we include, the residents of Miami Beach? And then on top of that, all of the people that will be visiting, South Florida, visiting Miami Beach. We know, just from past history in Miami Beach, that a lot of people are excited to come and want to stay on South Beach or in Miami Beach, as well in the city of Miami on the mainland side. But and I'll let Randy talk about a little bit about.
Okay, I'll go into just a couple touch points. These are just some things we had in our thought process. Legacy project with lasting impact, how Miami Beach receives those and what kind of legacy project might be of interest to you. The FIFA World Cup launch weekend kickoff concert. Globally, the media will be here. We're expecting 5,000 to 20,000. I know that's a big span, but it's over weeks. So potentially a kickoff concert, which would be beneficial to residents. We'll let you read this at your leisure. It's not that much right now. An official watch party location, which we have limited amounts of those in Miami Beach to receive one of those. Global exposure, over 250 international media outlets. It's going to be an opportunity to align brand with FIFA, the city's brand, and also the Know Before You Go inclusion, which is going to those 700,000 plus visitors that'll be here. A media row similar to what we created during Super Bowl when Fox Network was on there. No, Commissioner Shaking remembers that. And then also, sanctioning of FIFA and host committee events. And that's quick.
for you all to look later.
Excellent. Thank you. I think we're all incredibly excited. I'll kick it over to my colleagues if they want to say anything, but I think the direction that we're just looking for here is to allow staff to negotiate exactly what this partnership will look like. If there's anything that we feel is very critical to introduce that we want staff to consider, we can certainly put that out there now, or if we wanted to have one-off conversations, so I'm not catching you on at the spur of the moment, we could also do that. So turn it over to my colleagues, please. Would love to hear your thoughts.
I think this is great for the county, for the state, for certainly Miami Beach. It aligns very nicely with the pivot that we're making. We are in the process of doing a Blue Zone City evaluation to align ourselves more with wellness and well-being and longer, better lives led by everybody, and I think this plays very nicely into it. I do have a bunch of ideas of how we could use this partnership for our collective municipal benefit, which I'll take offline. So I'm very excited to see this opportunity as an option, and let's go get it.
Welcome back to Miami Beach, Ray. You were our chief, were you not?
I was.
Chief of
Yeah.
police. From what years were you our chief again?
Well, I was with the Miami Beach from 2001 to 2014, and then 2012 to 2014, I was the chief of police.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Welcome
Glad to
back.
be back. Thank you.
Very excited. Hopefully when we go through the negotiation, whatever we can do so that we can have any type of, like, if we have to build out soccer fields, I don't know exactly what the spend is going to be, but anything we can do to help the children of our community, especially any improvements to the soccer field in Flamingo Park. I know that there's a soccer field in North Beach as well, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we'd been talking about the aquatic complex in North Beach and how to reconfigure that so it might make more financial sense. And so there's an opportunity to partner with you to recombine some of the facilities in adjacent places. But yes, between Flamingo Park and North Beach, I think there's lots of opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And in a related fashion, I'm not even sure if the representatives are aware, but as a leeway into this, at 12 o'clock, we have that exact proposal. We're going to expect to have a player of the U.S. men's national team and one of the most prolific international players in the United States who plays for, I believe, Juventus right now, Weston McKinney. We're working with him to possibly do a child summer camp, with North Beach being one of those locations. So I'll tease that a little bit. If after the traffic circle anybody is interested and wants to stay around, you're all more than welcome to do so. So I'll just tease that so we don't lose our entire audience.
Great
So,
opportunities.
and thank you all so much.
Thank you. So Chair, I would share that the item is presented and request staff to negotiate an agreement and return to FERC when appropriate. Correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So let's move on. We will do OB4. Yep, the Pine Tree Traffic Circle. And Mr. CFO, do you want to tee that up? And I'm going to hand this to the administration and obviously invite members from the community. We can kind of play this out by ear. If there's two sides to this about residents that want it, those that do not. But where I'm coming down is we certainly need better community outreach. Mr. Gomez, I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll see how we can land this.
Just read the item. OB4, discuss next steps in funding for the Pine Tree Drive and 46th Street Traffic Circle Project, OB4.
Mr. Chair, good afternoon. Commissioners, good morning. David Gomez, Interim Director for CIP. As a brief history on the project, excuse me, this project began as a joint partnership agreement between the City of Miami Beach and Miami-Dade County to create some geometric improvements at the intersection of 46th and Pine Tree. The initial plan was to do a roundabout at that intersection. We met with the residents immediately adjacent to that roundabout at the time. They were very supportive and we proceeded with the design. As the design developed, some of the residents were hesitant on the design because of the footprint. This was, the original layout was a dual lane, single roundabout, and the concern was that it was just too big a footprint. After several rounds with the residents and looking at it again, we proposed a single lane roundabout, which in order to accommodate that required merge lanes and other modifications which extended the project northbound. And wound up requiring, a traffic circle at 47th Street and Pine Tree. And that's the dual lane roundabout that we had been discussing with the county.
Commissioner.
So that's my neighborhood. I live on 46th Street. My experience with the traffic circle to date that we have right now on 47th Street is that it's very difficult. I watch the bus trying to pick up the kids in the morning, and the bus can't get around it. And if you put a traffic circle at 47th Street, I know that there's a shul right there, and there's also our only convenience store who's very worried about going out of business. He did not want this. I don't necessarily want this because I find the other one cumbersome. And as you can see, we have a bunch of residents here who are also not very happy, not pleased about this. So what can we do instead of a traffic circle? We started, this whole initiative started because people were speeding through the neighborhood and they wanted traffic calming. So we got the first circle, and then sometimes we just go crazy and say we're going to put 3 more circles without really thinking of the effects on the neighborhood. If it was up to me, I would probably just put a speed bump or something, if that would be better than any major construction.
There were several different options that were examined even before the traffic circle, including speed bumps. Because of the classification of the road, the county will not allow speed bumps in this section of roadway. It has also been, they had a project where they installed some rumble strips further south, and those wound up having to be removed because of resident complaints regarding noise. So we did speak with the county on multiple occasions. They did look at the traffic studies. This was not done in a vacuum. We did look at what the impact would be to the neighborhood through the traffic study. It's actually an improvement to traffic flow, and that's how the city the county was able to find additional funding through their road impact fee program.
Dave, here would be,
Could I just ask a question for
let me just
clarification?
finish and then, okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, just to explain, could you just explain your comment about FDOT not allowing speed bumps on that road?
No, not FDOT, the county.
Oh, sorry, the county.
It is a county road, and the classification of the road is a collector. They don't allow speed bumps on that type of roadway.
But they have it on Pine Tree.
Further south, yes. Not in this
further
section.
north.
I'm sorry, north, not in this section.
And also, if you don't mind me saying, the speed bumps they put further down south on Pine Tree Drive were not what they put on the Gorse further up. If they would do those type of bumps.
Please speak into the
The
microphone.
rubber ones. Can I just say something? Here's what I would say. Why don't we send a message back to the county and say, if it's not broke, I don't think we need to fix it. People are upset about it. So let's just tell the county that we're choosing not to fund our portion of it and that we would like to not move forward based on a lot of resident feedback and the fact that we don't feel that we need it at this time. And maybe we can allocate those funds to some other project in the area.
Okay, that is the direction that we're seeking as an administration. We have spoken to the county on multiple occasions regarding this project. That possibility was discussed with them. Their position is if we don't incorporate this layout, what they would do is defund their portion of the project. That JPA, by the way, with the additional funding hasn't been executed yet, pending our decision. They would defund their portion, and then they would schedule in their regular schedule of projects, they would prioritize it, and whenever they get to it, they would come back and do something differently, which would probably be a realignment of the center line of the roadway. In any condition, whether we incorporate this project or some other project, the parking, which is a major concern for the residents, should not be there. It is not legal parking, and the county wants it removed.
And David, I'm guessing that a speed table is synonymous with a speed bump?
That's correct, yes.
I'm trying to picture which parking it is exactly. Do you have any pictures of it so I can see which parking there's? I know there's a parking lot right there, but that's 47.
No, this is.
And this is 46.
There is actually no on-street parking in that curb section, but people do use it for vehicles and delivery trucks and other things just because there's a wide shoulder. That is the parking that the county has identified as illegal parking. I think there's even a couple of no parking signs that they are looking to remove regardless of what we do with this intersection.
God, we've been having a fun time with the county lately, haven't we? What do you think is the most diplomatic solution to tell them we would rather not have this?
Well,
And-
so I have a couple questions. So my understanding is that this is the product of an attempt to prevent further fatal traffic accidents.
I wouldn't identify it as only fatal, just
Well,
prevent accidents in general,
Accidents
yes.
in general, but also the fact that they are not just fender benders is a thing.
Correct.
How long has it been, do you know how long it's been since there's been an accident there?
I don't have that data.
Look, just to put this conversation, to give everybody who's here some context, we are in a place right now with the county that what we decide here won't be undone easily, and it's not likely that things are going to get much smoother with the county in the foreseeable future. I think that is a fair statement. So if there are,
This is actually Steinberg's district, and she's not mad at us. It's the representative to the south.
no,
that does
I
not like
understand,
us,
but
and
the county
Steinberg-
commission is made up of 13 commissioners, and not one person can't.
Well, true, but Commissioner Higgins has no jurisdiction over that. That's Commissioner Steinberg's, and if we tell her that we don't want this there, we can actually have a conversation with her and she'll listen to us. So I would go and speak to, my motion would be, go speak to Commissioner Steinberg, explain the situation, explain that we would somehow like to keep the wide shoulder as is, and see, and come back to us, next month.
I just to finish out my thought, I wasn't suggesting we do or don't do one thing or another, just putting that context out there. It seems that if our choices are either do nothing or do these traffic circles, those are not great options. And David, I don't know if it's your department or Jose could illuminate a little further if there's any sort of chink in the armor about having a conversation about some other alternate options down the road, no pun intended, about the down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly where I'm thinking as well, where I don't think any resident, I don't want to put words in your mouth, would disagree, but this is an area where we do need speed mitigation. Safety is of the utmost concern, but clearly with the community feedback, they are not thinking that this is the right solution. So there has to be some sort of alternative. I'm very hard pressed to think that it is a traffic circle here or bust.
Yeah.
I know at the last FERC meeting, we requested a community meeting where we could actually get together and voice some of these. I wasn't aware of one ever taking place. I did hear that there was one. I am incredibly respectful of people's time, and I would hate to, have you all come out here today and then have another meeting, but I think this is where we really need to collaborate and have the county at the table. It makes no sense
They
to
should be
just
at the
have this
meeting.
back and forth. We should set up a meeting where Commissioner Steinberg, who represents this district, is in attendance. I would ask the community to come out in attendance, both sides, because I do think it's critical that we have some safety parameters in here, just based on the reports that we get, right, where there's so many crashes in that area. We're doing this to truly look out for the neighborhood and things like that, but clearly it seems as if we need to, I don't want to say fully go back to the drawing board, but find some sort of compromise where we're not significantly impacting people's lives and the traffic flow here. But we are also holding safety as our utmost priority. Jose, could you just kind of give your thoughts? This is a critical need here, right? Some sort of speed mitigation, just based on statistics. And in your expert opinion, is there a needle that we're able to thread where we are not implementing a traffic circle, but we could find some perhaps better alternatives?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, committee members. Jose Gonzalez, Transportation Director and Interim Parking Director. So as Interim Director David Gomez pointed out, there have been numerous discussions with the county. We're really trying to push the envelope, trying to get the county to compromise, if you will. At the last meeting, which unfortunately I was not able to attend, but the team was there, and Interim Director David Gomez was there, the county made it very clear that they provided another option to the traffic circle, which is it would be more of a long-term permanent project, but it would be to realign the curve that's there along that segment of Pine Tree Drive, which is really the root cause of why vehicles are veering off, when vehicles which are speeding veer off at that curve section and then end up on private property and cause property damage. So to realign the road would address the situation, but that's more of a long-term solution, and there's no guarantee that that will not impact parking or that will, not change the character of the street. The swale area may be affected. They proffered that without a whole lot of details. We don't know what it would cost, when it would be done, no guarantees, but that would be the permanent long-term fix, if you will. But back to the circles, they drew the line in the sand that speed humps or any other type of traffic calming other than a traffic circle would not approve it on their roadway.
And there's clearly a lot of interest from the community in the configuration that we go forward with here. Can I just have a quick show of hands of who attended that meeting? And I think that's exactly where I'm going with this is.
Which
Yep, and neither did I. So, and that's exactly what I'm saying. There's clearly a lot of interest.
I'm sorry, which meeting are you referring to?
The community meeting where these alternatives were discussed.
What we did as an administration is we reached out to those most impacted by the location of these, those adjacent to or touching the area and extending into 46th and 47th.
Yep.
We didn't advertise a full public meeting.
We live on that street, we can get a notice about it.
Yeah.
We live right there.
And I hear you loud and clear. I wasn't noticed about it either, and I was the one that requested the meeting. That's not a knock. I'm not looking backward. I want to look forward. Clearly, we need more community collaboration. So I would like a publicly noticed meeting so the entire community can come out, provide their feedback, because this isn't something that just impacts the adjacent neighbors, and we need our representatives, not only staff from the county, we need our elected representatives there, because this is clearly going to be a decision that is going to have a lot of public interest. So I don't know if anybody wants to come up and speak for 30 seconds or a minute, but I can't imagine that there's disagreement. Come to the podium, please. I can't imagine that there's disagreement that before we go forward with any type of solution, we would like a more well-noticed, better attended community outreach meeting where we're all giving our feedback, and not only is the city administration there, but ultimately if the elected officials on both the city and the county are going to have to make this decision, I think they should be there as well.
Commissioner, we have public comment.
Let's hear from people in the chambers first, and I would like to hear from whoever would like to speak, but if we could limit to 30 seconds to a minute, especially if we're regurgitating points. So,
Hi, I'm Zalman Felig. I live on 4444 Pine Tree Drive. You all know me. I think speed bumps that they have like Lagos would resolve the issue. I've been living there since 1994. I've seen some of the accidents, and I think just doing the same thing they have further up. What they did further north was not what they have, further south was not what they have further north in Lagos, and that makes a huge difference. And it's economical, it makes sense. Instead of spending, I think, $3-6 million, doesn't make sense.
and I'm sorry, do we have feedback what the big holdup from the county over speed tables would be?
It is the classification of the roadway in this section as a collector roadway and as an egress path or an evacuation path. So this portion of the roadway is not allowed or not eligible for speed bumps.
I'm a layman person, pretty simple, but I can't imagine that a traffic circle would be more conducive to facilitating the flow of evacuation versus a speed bump, but.
I understand the hesitation. According to the traffic studies and the county's endorsement, it actually improves traffic flow, which is why the road impact fees are eligible to be used.
Not if it's one lane, sir, respectfully.
Yeah, and I think the exact reason why we need to have county representatives here, if they're the ones that are, excuse the pun, putting up the roadblock, but we need to hear, if they're saying no, we need to understand why, and they need to hear from our residents. So, sir, please.
My name is Irving Khan. I live on Pine Tree Drive right there. And out of respect for the commissioner's time, about 10 people have asked me to put all the information together. I'd like about 5 minutes of your time because it put all the information
that everybody wants to say into one.
Let's try and limit it to 2 to 3. And again, I don't think that we're going to go forward with a defined solution here. We're essentially, I think, loud and clear hearing, we need to have a more collaborative relationship, have feedback of people that want to traffic circle, do not, and the county representatives, because they're ultimately the ones that are making the decision here. So
This is only about facts and about the ramifications. And again, all these people, raise your hands who cede me the time to speak on their behalf. It's really kind of important because out of respect for your time, we've put it all together. We cannot deny a problem exists by Miami Beach owns admission on Pine Tree Drive between 46 and 47. Most of the accidents occur after midnight, especially on weekends, caused by intoxicated drivers coming from South Beach. We must address that problem, but we cannot exacerbate them by creating newer, bigger problems. The proposal includes Pine Tree Drive lane reduction, removal of 2 traffic lights, elimination of a turning lane on 47th Street, removal of 50% of the parking, and saddling Miami Beach residents with funding $3.25 million for this project. But alternatives do exist. Speed bumps would resolve the issue. We were told by the representatives that regulation prohibits speed bumps on 2-lane streets. Yet 11 speed bumps successfully exist and operate between 51st and 63rd Street, just north of Pine Tree and Lagos. The regulation requirement were addressed and resolved by installing these little islands. They work. Why can't we do the same thing here? Giving speedsters a few expensive citations, first by live officers, then automatically by machines, will force drivers to be more cautious. Instead of costing Miami Beach money, it will make Miami Beach money. Deep concrete bollards could be installed where cars keep launching off on Pine Tree Drive. That will stop them and mitigate the danger. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Philip Levine, the president of the 900 residents of Tower 41 who support our efforts to stop this. Now, despite the proposed traffic circles, let's talk about ramifications of this proposal. Removing the traffic lights and sharpening the curve will create more accidents. Drivers too impaired to respect traffic lights may simply not be capable of ignoring sharp curves and single lanes. This is not just a problem for Pine Tree Drive. It will have terrible effects on all other parallel streets on the side streets. This is a life safety issue. Pine Tree is a hurricane evacuation route created to facilitate an expedient evacuation. This project will do the exact opposite. We will be creating a bottleneck and a traffic jam on this vital passage. When we presented these concerns to the Miami Beach representatives, they responded, quotes, motorists will reroute to other streets. This completely ignores the congestion and the danger by speedsters on currently quiet streets where our kids play, ride bicycles, and our elderly neighbors cross. It will create a chokehold in all directions converging on this one block. Don't we have enough of that on 41st Street? Specifically, the proposed reduction of Pine Tree to a single lane and removal of parking will exacerbate all of the following challenges. A, parking for service vehicles such as gardeners, plumbers, pool techs, cleaners, Uber Pickup, and Uber Eats. B, delivery vehicles such as Amazon, UPS, mail vehicles. C, parking for local establishments and the synagogue. D, on this stretch of Pine Tree, at the very least, once a month, there are gatherings or parties. Trucks, vans, and other support vehicles servicing these events that don't all fit into the driveways come to make deliveries and pickup. This goes on for days before and after the events. Currently, much of this is done by temporarily double parking vehicles while they unload and load. With this proposal, these vehicles would effectively block the only single lane, resulting in a standstill for many blocks. These 1-minute drop-offs by trucks or Amazon driver jumping out of their vehicle and create a full stop behind them on this vital artery. It will also create havoc, exacerbating the traffic right now between 8 and 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. It increases the difficulty of drivers exiting from the driveways onto both Pine Tree and 47th Street.
And Irvin, I don't think you are getting any pushback from us up here, right? We have heard you all loud and clear. In fact, I'm somewhat disappointed because at the last FERC meeting where we discussed this, knowing that this was going to come back to the electeds to make a decision, that we weren't at this community meeting, I don't see the rhyme or reason. I would have thought that would have been important to ensure happen. So what I would like to do is look forward. I would like to somebody from staff volunteer that they're going to work to facilitate the next community outreach meeting. I want this to be publicly noticed. Kevin, if you are able to volunteer to be sure that that happens, I want to have our elected body here, and I want to be sure that staff, so they can explain the expert opinion behind this from the county, and also the elected representative, I want to extend her the courtesy to come and hear from her residents as well. Commissioner.
I think you have to stipulate that it's a mailed notice, because we've been giving notice and we're not getting the outreach at some meetings. I don't think the email notice is working. I think a postcard, a mailed postcard. I saw the same thing south of Fifth when we held that meeting. Nobody really showed up. And so we're going to start to stipulate mailed notice, okay? And I don't know what kind of budget we have for this, but it's a postcard to, I don't know, how stipulate like the entire, I don't know how you're going to figure out who are the stakeholders, but I would mail a postcard as part, if you want that to be my motion.
Yeah, great. Sir.
Yeah, I would
like
love 30 seconds to a minute.
Please.
My name's Jamie Lafrac. I live at 4567 Pine Tree. I've seen you guys for other matters and other things, so you may know me. I live in one of the, let's say, victim houses, the houses that the cars tend to wind up on our lawns after the chicane situation. So, I don't think that there's major disagreement with my neighbor and other neighbors about, many of the issues. I probably would disagree on a handful of his assertions, but more importantly, this is not the venue, as you say, to negotiate these things. A finance committee meeting is where we decide how to pay for all of it. The best way, I think, to resolve this is indeed to have a collaborative conversation amongst all of us, with, most importantly, the county, since they seem to have the veto power effectively in the deciding vote in all of this. And I just want to say that I really appreciate you guys weighing in order to get the attention of the county, because I'm sure that although a few of us may have some influence, the best influence on the county is brought to bear by our electeds who represent us, and you guys will do a wonderful job in assisting with that. And the only thing that I would say about the specifics of the plan are, I think our neighbors on our side of the street are just sort of so overwhelmed by the frequency of the accidents that we're almost willing to do anything. There had been some suggestion, I think, about putting in some speed indicators to try to slow the cars down. And maybe I'm misreading that, but there was some proposal to do like a $300,000 installation of those speed readers that tell drivers that they are going too quickly. And like any improvement is an improvement. We also are most open to any idea involving testing and trying. We were suggesting maybe putting knockdown barriers in temporarily to see if we narrowed the lane from 2 to 1 for a period of time, as they're doing a pilot program, for example, on 41st Street at the moment, whether, we could have a pilot program of some sort. But again, all of that would need to be sorted out with the county. And thank you for your time, and everybody, please don't spend all day here. It's a beautiful day. Go to the beach.
Yeah, please.
For the staff, can we ask you to get data from the police department about the, let's say the last 2 or 3 years of accidents? Because if the data is indeed that the vast majority of the serious accidents happen after midnight on weekends when people are driving recklessly and potentially impaired, perhaps an interim stopgap measure is to have enforcement there stationed on Friday and Saturday nights, or whatever the right thing is. But can we have that conversation with our colleagues in the police department? It's not a long-term fix, but maybe it will help mitigate some life safety issues and possibly educate on changing behavior.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And while I don't want this to turn into all of us offering all these possible solutions, but people are going to drive on a road as it is designed. So if you have 2 lanes of just uninhibited straightaway, people are going to abuse that. I've been voicing those concerns on my street on West Avenue for years, right? So what I'm thinking is some sort of reasonable solution is putting an island in between the 2 lanes, because the narrower road, the less dangerous people are going to drive on it. I've been begging for that on West Avenue. I woke up to a Facebook post yesterday of a car flying over the essentially median in West Avenue, hitting cars on the right side of the street, the left side of the street, and ultimately coming to a stop. That's the street and the sidewalk where I walk my daughter, and it's a 5-lane highway in the middle of a residential street. It makes no sense. We do not plan our city well. We do not plan our roadways well. These are things that the community begs for years, and these are decisions that should not take years and years to implement.
Okay, so the final motion, we would like mailed notice, a community meeting, invite all county, invite Commissioner Steinberg and staff who made this decision, and we will reconvene and negotiate it at that meeting. Okay? All right.
I appreciate everybody's community time. I don't think everybody's going to get up and leave right away because we have an exciting agenda, so.
But we have Shabbos coming, so Shabbat Shalom. You can come to me tonight.
Commissioner, we
Take care.
have 3 public comments.
Yeah.
Bridget Hall, please unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead,
I
Ms.
just
Hall.
The question was asked, when was the most recent accident? And it was on 9/16 in front of 4609 Pine Tree, where a drunk driver crashed into our security guards, and he was taken away on ambulance. And I have the footage if you want me to email it anywhere.
I would welcome an email. I think you hear from all of us loud and clear that mitigation measures are 100% required, and we would look to expedite that as quickly as possible.
Okay, where do I send the footage to?
I'm sorry?
Where should I email the footage?
You could email it to the collective body of commissioners.
Okay.
Kelly Gale, please unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
At the next meeting, I would also like some of the following information provided. Drawings of the various proposals. You already mentioned providing statistics regarding the number and types of accidents in that area. And I'd also like to hear why Pine Tree, that particular expanse, is considered an egress path, and also whether that designation can be changed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gill.
You're welcome.
Truman Capote, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Chair. Let me just summarize the motion. I believe it was the facilitated, staff to facilitate a community meeting with mailed notices to invite the county commissioner and county staff and return to FERC with an update, including accident data at the appropriate time.
Commissioner Bott, why don't we go to old business 1, discuss the possibility of the city I'll leave it to the staff to introduce. Always stealing your thunder. That's why you all get paid the big bucks.
Thank you, Chair. OB1, discuss the possibility of the city entering into one or more agreements with private parking facility operators in North Beach in order to increase the number of available parking spaces for North Beach residents. OB1.
Jose.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members, Jose Gonzalez, Transportation Director and Interim Parking Director. This item is sponsored by Commissioner Bott. I'm not sure if she would like to say a few words or if I get right to it. Thank you, Commissioner. So, in preparation for this item, we've had several preliminary exploratory type of discussions with private owners to gauge their interest in a potential partnership with the city for the use of their parking lots, private parking lots, by city residents or for the city on a could be on a part-time basis, for example, after hours, after businesses close, those types of arrangements. We've had several meetings. We've had actually about 5 or 6. The first couple ones were over at Parkview Island with the owners and the representatives of the parking lot that's at 7441 Wayne Avenue and at 6850 Bay Drive. That conversation was held a few months ago. Unfortunately, they were not very interested in pursuing any type of partnership with the city. We then moved on to meet with the property owner of 1101 71st Street. And there may be some opportunities there for further dialogue in terms of a joint public-private venture consisting of joining 2 properties, and the private property owner is interested in building a joint development project and in furthering conversations. So that's their ongoing discussions there. We then actually, facilitated by Commissioner Bott, we held a meeting with the owners of the Sherry Frontenac Hotel a couple months ago. That's at 6565 Collins Avenue. There is a vacant lot. It's unimproved. It's not paved or anything. It's on the north. It abuts the north side of the Sherry Frontenac Hotel, and there was some interest there on the part of the property owners to engage with the city in some sort of temporary use of their lot. Again, it's not improved. It's not paved. So that's something that we would have to look further into. We also looked at the property at 917 Normandy Drive. That was the last discussion, our last discussion. Well, actually, let me take that back. That's also a potential location where we would have to have further discussions with the property owner. Very recently, we held, just last week, a conversation that Commissioner Bott also facilitated with the Deauville Hotel and their developers to see if there's some interest in a partnership whereby the city can use some of those spaces for either emergency purposes or other purposes, and there's a commitment to continue that dialogue as well. So there's some potential opportunities. We heard some no's from some property owners, but we heard some maybes. Let's continue talking, and so those discussions will continue into the next months.
Thank you, Jose. And Commissioner Bott, I'll hand it over to you in a second, but the last one that you mentioned about the Deauville, I assume you mean the parking lot on the west side of Collins Avenue?
The parking
garage
on Indian Creek and 65th. Yes.
So is that being used right now? It's shut down, correct?
Correct.
Do we know what their long-term plans for that are? And it's my understanding that in the near to medium term, the property owners are going to come to us for a project. So I can't stress enough what a good show of community support it would be to essentially incorporate, very much needed parking as a good faith effort from the family. What is your?
There was some interest there.
One second, Jose. I'll hand it over to Commissioner Bott.
So I've been talking to them for the majority of this year about getting that parking garage back online in some capacity, whether it is a permanent joint venture with the city. If it's just emergency for multiple years, we're going to have the parking lot, the surface lot at 72nd Street offline while the new aquatic facility is built. So that is going to be critical, and they are very clearly understanding that it needs to come online ASAP, and that it is going to help show good faith for being good community partners to make that happen. So that's definitely underway.
Jose, kick it back to you.
Sure. Just one property that I forgot. Also, something conversation that Commissioner Bott is spearheading, and that's a small parking lot over at 6850 Bay Drive, which is not in very good condition, but it's not very utilized, and there may be some potential there to engage with the private property owner on a partnership, and we've got an upcoming meeting. So in total, about 7 different property owners have been approached so far.
I will just say it's comical because one of the first property owners that we approached on Bay Drive, it's a large-ish, I mean, not large municipal scale, but, easily at least 20 spots on the corner of Bay and Brest Esplanade. And it is never full. It's adjacent to, I think, an 8-unit multifamily home or building. And there are 10 or 12 cars there that are part of that. And the rest of this, the incremental 20 some odd spots it's never used. So for them to tell us that it's used overnight and it's full all the time is just a total crock. And I find it really disheartening that our neighbors are not willing to do the right thing for our neighbors. Anyhow, rant over.
So where are we moving with this? Do you need more time for discussion? Do you need direction from us about how to proceed from here? What is your position?
Mr. Chair, we would need more time to further some of these discussions. I think the recent discussion we had with the Doval was very promising. There's some issues that need to be addressed at the garage itself, some structural issues, but there's somewhat of a commitment from the property owners to work with us, and so that I would say up until all 7 conversations that we've had, that has probably been the most promising, the one with the most potential, because it's a large parking structure with 600 plus parking spaces. So there's a good opportunity there.
Perhaps they could address that with more urgency than they did with their hotel. So what?
It's different figures now.
Yes, absolutely. What is the best course of action, Mr. CFO? Should we keep this here and here again? Jose, what? I don't want to just kick this, down the road 2 months from now. Is that fair?
If I could, I was going to ask perhaps if it could be just as shown that the item was discussed and returned with an update when appropriate, to leave it in the staff's hands, because it could be 2 months, it could be 4 months, could be next month, I guess. Jose?
Yes. I think 3 months would be a good time to maybe report back on some further discussions and continuing discussions with these property owners.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll show it return in 3 months. Thank you.
Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez, I think you have such a cool initiative with OB6 and saw Ms. Hulinacki in City Hall this week, so I think this is very timely. If you want to, we'll have staff introduce, and then if you want to take over on OB6.
OB6, discuss establishing a match funding program to incentivize building owner participation in the Hulinacki Art Deco Pastel Colors Initiative, OB6.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. Raquel Williams, Assistant City Manager. At the October FERC meeting, the committee asked us to come up with a matching grant program to facilitate the inclusion of the Leonard Horowitz color palette, along with consultation from Barbara Hulinacki for historic properties, prioritizing Washington Avenue, Collins Avenue, and Ocean Drive. We did do our best to replicate some of the provisions within the CRA's facade improvement program. We did have a meeting, thanks to the Office of Commissioner Rosa Gonzalez. We had a meeting with Barbara Hulinacki to discuss how she could be able to participate in the program. We did come up with a funding ask of $220,000, which would include $200,000 for approximately 10 properties to receive up to $20,000, as well as $2,000 to Ms. Hulinacki for her services per properties, for a total of $20,000, in the aggregate of $220,000 for the entirety of the project. And so if you have any questions about details and how we would define eligibility, how we would run the program. Happy to answer those today.
Thank you, Raquel, for getting it done, for meeting with Barbara Hulanicki. It's been really interesting. At present, we're painting, I think, 5 different buildings with her. We have yet to complete one, but we're about to start. And this is about the beautification of our historic districts. This is not a new thing, believe it or not. When you look historically at Miami Beach, I had a property owner the other day who said that when she first purchased her property on Washington Avenue, and this was like 40 years ago, she was given a $20,000 grant by the city to beautify her facade. So we're going back to our roots and what we think is important in Art Deco architecture. So this seems like a very generous program, a nice way to start out. And, you know, I would love to have, so this would be in the budget cycle for next year,
So
correct?
we do not have a funding source in the current fiscal year budget, and so the committee could make a recommendation for a future budget cycle. Alternatively, the committee could make a recommendation for a budget amendment.
I would love to do this as a budget amendment and get it going, do some outreach with the community, really focus a little bit on beautification. I think there's, you know, and I know that some of these buildings are hurting. Some of them are not leased out. They could be vacant. They could beautify them. So I don't know how you guys feel about this, but this is one of many steps that I think many of us are all committed to our Art Deco architecture, our historic districts, preserving what makes us special, and this is a really interesting initiative. And by the way, when you see the first building, I think you're going to be so pleased. I was driving past the Colony Theater the other day, and I'm so excited because there's matching awnings, and it's going to look beautiful.
And PJ has some graphics to share as well, if necessary. Thanks.
So while we're admiring the beautiful graphics, Raquel, can you give us some guidance based on the North Beach CRA program? I have no problem identifying funding for it now. My thought is we don't need to identify all the funding for it now, because my understanding is North Beach CRA, I think they've got 2 or 3 applicants so far. It's like a rolling need, right? So you don't have to have $400,000 sitting in a pot. You can have 40 or 60 or 80 sitting in a pot, and then next year finance the rest. Because I don't believe, and I could be wrong, but I don't believe that we're going to need, that there's going to be a rush of like all these buildings clamoring for it. So could you provide some insight from North Beach?
Sure. So we could work with Ms. Hulanicki to help identify buildings that might be most in need or would benefit most from this project. We would have to reach out to those property owners and or tenants. Ultimately, if a tenant is applying, they would have to get the approval of the property owner. And so I do believe that it will take some time to get this off the ground, to market it, to get those buildings to participate in the program, and it could be staggered. In North Beach, we've had 7 applications. 2 have come before the CRA board. 1 is almost completed, just finalizing the reimbursement process. And so I do agree with you that if the pilot should move forward, the funding would not necessarily need to be allocated in one fiscal year or in a certain time period.
So
Let me just ask some structural questions before we get into what the amount of funding is, just so I could better understand. How much, on average, would an entire paint job for a building be? Any idea? And if it's not you best suited, and if we have other staff here, happy to incorporate.
Can I answer that? I just walked the district the other day, and it depends on the building, the size of the building, if the building needs to be pressure cleaned, if there's any structural work that needs to be done in conjunction with the painting. So there's an entire spectrum. And that's why I was looking at the sample reimbursement award scenarios. What if we did, here this would be my motion, to come up with a graphic to explain the program, an email blast to property owners in the area, or a mailed notice, a meeting, and a budget amendment to fund it with $80,000 to start, and let's see what happens. And all of us should be there, and we'll invite Ms. Hulanicki, and we could do a press release, and we want to create positive press in the historic district because there's been so much negative lately. Well, not lately, actually, no. I would say it's gotten much better, but for many moons, no, most people when they, we still have the crime scenarios coming out. Let's do something positive, and that is what happens. So, all right, that would be my motion. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, but let me kind of explore the line of questioning I was on. So where I was going with that, let's say we would allocate $80,000 and at $20,000 a property, that gets 4 properties, right? So it's great for a select few, but not for an entire district. I guess what I'm asking is if the paint job in itself is $30,000. I have no idea if it's 30,000 or 300, right?
There's all different scenarios.
Yep.
It's 10,000, so it's a 30-70 contribution. The owner contributes 30%, the city contributes 70%, and it's 10,000, 15, 20, 30, depending on the price of the job. So we have all sorts of different scenarios.
Okay, and that's where I was going is, could we lessen the amount to broaden the net if, giving $5,000 or $10,000 would have still essentially provided that incentive? But I see that we already are on kind of like a percentage or sliding scale basis, so I think that's providing a pretty adequate incentive.
And we would not give them more than what they need. We would certainly not go above 70%, and we would cap it at 20,000.
Yep. And let's say, do we think it would still provide an incentive if we're providing 50%, and then we could widen that net? If we only have $80,000 to work with, if we're providing 50% as a property owner, I'm still like, wow, I can have 50% of my cost covered. Let me go ahead and jump on this, if not for any other reason of beautifying my property, but just to have that fiscal cost covered. That's still a pretty good incentive to me, and then we could essentially expand how many properties take advantage of it. It's.
I'm okay with the 50%. I would love for the opening of this to be right around Art Deco weekend, maybe the week leading up to Art Deco weekend, so that we can open it up with what the city's doing to beautify Art Deco architecture. That's in January, correct?
Martin Luther King
Pardon?
Jr. weekend, Martin Luther King weekend.
Okay, so maybe we have a community meeting and a kickoff with a press release, invite MDPL, and we'll do, a big kickoff for the program.
The ADNA too.
We would take this to the commission as a new program. We would also need to do a budget amendment, I believe. We don't necessarily have these funds available, and so that would need to go to the commission for approval. And if that's the will of the committee to recommend it to the commission and the commission approves, then we would move forward as directed.
Okay. You guys are okay with that? All right,
And
thank
so
you.
just
Thank you for doing this so quickly, because you really put this together in a month. Thank you, Raquel.
Could I
Great
make
job.
a slight suggestion or amendment?
Yes.
I know that the recommendation was $80,000. That does not account for Ms. Hulanicki's participation if we're trying to do 4 properties with a cap of 20,000. So if we could extend that to 88,000 to account
Cover
for
at
Ms.
least 4
Hulanicki.
buildings. Okay, I'm okay with that. Are you guys okay with that? All right.
Thank you.
So if I can, the motion will be to return to commission with a favorable recommendation for the program as presented with an $88,000 budget and to develop a marketing outreach campaign.
Thank you.
With a kickoff, city kickoff, Art Deco.
We have a time certain with somebody calling in at 12, so I want to get to a few quick ones. Do we want to do OB2, the fencing for vacant and abandoned lots? And why I think it could be quick is because we've discussed this. I believe we might have discussed it on the planning board together, right? Yeah. Some time ago. So let's have that come up.
Thank you. OB2, discuss fencing for city-owned vacant abandoned lots, OB2.
I'll start this off. Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members, Elizabeth Miro, Assistant Director for Facilities and Fleet Management. We brought this item before you in June of 2024, and we discussed vacant lots that are potentially can be either landscaped or they can be fenced. We reduced that and we took another look. Out of the 18 lots, we looked at 5 that have a potential to be landscaped as well as resodded. So with that, this is what we bring before you in Exhibit B. The majority of these lots are about 4 parcels that are in the west lots that could be resodded, and the total cost to do all these landscape improvements is roughly about $49,000.
can I say one thing? I love this initiative. I would approve it today. If we're resodding these lots and we just had FIFA come in and they want to build soccer fields, should we build a couple soccer fields up there? Is that a ridiculous thing? Are they large enough? None of them are probably large enough, are they?
For like recreational or
Mhm.
competitive junior soccer,
Mhm.
having two kids in soccer, I would ballpark that, yeah, they are.
They are?
Yeah. For
I-
smaller fields, they wouldn't be like
What, you are?
regulation.
Let's, oh, look, they just said that they're gonna build some soccer fields and they wanna give us a public benefit and they are kind of flush with cash. They've raised $100 million. Before we do, if you have 4 lots that you wanna landscape, why don't we just split it and say, I don't know if Lisette is here or not. Lisette, maybe 2 of those lots could be
John, do
made
you wanna come
into soccer fields. And I would speak to them and see if they have that kind of funding and if that's the kind of benefit that we're looking at. And, you know, if we could do that, a couple of soccer fields with FIFA and a couple of landscape.
To clarify, real, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And if I could just mention, Commissioner Bott, then you as well, I'm familiar with the program that Ken Griffin launched when he came to Miami. And he allocated $5 million to build 50 microfields across the region. I don't know if there's any money left in that bucket, but it's certainly something I would ask staff to explore. I'll try and do so on my end. But this is a well-established program of somebody that wants to contribute to the city, has the funds allocated to do so. So before we're using our funds, I think to kind of take advantage of a well-oiled machine that's already kind of in place, I think that should be where we start first. If those are all exhausted or we're not able to do so, very supportive of the initiative that we're discussing here. But Commissioner Bott, go ahead, and then John, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I love the idea of putting more playing fields throughout the city, whether they're soccer fields or other. I am just cautious about making decisions on the fly here because I'd like to be strategic about where the funds are used and how they're used. And you know, can we get even more soccer fields than we might have thought? So in the ideal world, we would repurpose the soccer fields on Normandy and make those better so that, you know, or work with that for the aquatic center and have some kind of spreading out of resources, have some up in North Beach, have the Flamingo Park field upgraded. But I'd like to be able to do this in a strategic way. So without, I would like to have a meeting with staff to figure out what we actually need and what we can ask for with all these disparate avenues before we say, let's take 2 fields up in North Beach and make them soccer fields. Because maybe we can do, I just don't know yet. And I think making these directives on the fly without seeing how to best strategically and synergistically upgrade the soccer facilities throughout the city, all over the place, with as little of the Miami Beach tax dollars involved as possible is an excellent initiative. But let's do it strategically rather than from the dais.
Why don't we just bring it back next month, and in the interim, we'll meet with staff and we can see what the size of the fields are, do an inventory of the soccer fields before we spend any money landscaping.
Yeah.
And speak with Lisette because she's gonna be negotiating with the FIFA people to see exactly what they were envisioning,
And
and
the
then we'll
Ken
come
Griffin
back.
thing, and yeah.
Yeah, and
that'd be
Ken
great.
Griffin.
John, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not familiar with the lots that you're speaking of, so I certainly would want to take a look. And the chair, you're exactly right. There was money available. I don't know if there still is money available. We just didn't have a qualifying project at that time. So I'll work with my colleagues in facilities to see if this maybe is a qualifying site.
Excellent. And I know Mr. Griffin is on the board for the FIFA World Cup Host Committee. So this would go hand in hand, whether it be through his previous program, through FIFA's program, or something that we're going to actually hear in a little bit, in about 10 minutes, right?
Yes, sir.
Chair, if I may, just to the specifics of this item, because I think we're off a little bit just on that, is I know that, and this has been before this committee before, it's not currently here, is I know there is a master plan specifically that was approved that hasn't moved forward with on the west lots, there is geo bond dollars that are associated with renovations or whatever it would end up being up there. Again, separate from this item. This item is actually about fencing and landscaping up in that area. But I think those updates on the soccer fields would be apropos to the World Cup item coming back, which is really about allocating dollars perhaps towards that legacy project. But on this one, I would say that if there's interest in either the master plan work, other soccer fields, or through the legacy project through the World Cup, that this item would either just be closed or deferred until appropriate. So
Yeah, I would say deferred if we could hear it. Let's do next month. I don't want to just put this into purgatory, but that will give all of us the opportunity to meet with you, for your staff to meet with John, to see if the lots that we're talking about are feasible. And if they're not, then we move forward with beautifying that. I don't want to just, these lots remain in their existing condition. Let's do one thing or the other. Okay, thank you all.
I will just show the item discussed and to return next month.
Why don't we hear NB1, discuss the desirability, feasibility of construction of a children's park at Euclid Circle. Commissioner Suarez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Glad to be with you all. I know I'm not on the Finance Committee, but thank you for allowing me to present my item. I wanted to see what my colleagues feel about having a true playground on Lincoln Road. I'm joined by my son here. He's watching YouTube. It would be, I think, a great initiative to bring families over to Lincoln Road and bring a more family-oriented crowd to one of our most iconic pedestrian malls. Elizabeth, if you want to take it from here.
Okay, we're going to start just a little bit. Good morning again. So we looked at the current plans for Lincoln Road. So the Euclid Circle, or the Euclid Oval rather, has never been contemplated truly as a children's playground, but it has been contemplated in this current phase of the Lincoln Road project for multi-use, multi-function capabilities. There was a rendering that was proposed at one time to use the right-of-way on the Euclid Circle to install a playground there, and that's what we're proposing before you. Daniel Alzuri is going to get into the specifics as to what we looked at. We have three options before you. One, the current plans as they have been approved by the HPB. Second is if we were to go forward with a playground, with a change to that. And then the third one is if we were to proceed with a playground at the Euclid right-of-way.
And let me ask you a question. I love the idea. I would love to actually have maybe our flagship children's playground on Lincoln Road. And how I'm thinking about that is not a playground that you happen to go to because you're on Lincoln Road, but a playground people are going to come to visit, and then they find themselves on Lincoln Road, right? So it's going to be a playground that is so exciting, so attractive for people to go there. They spend money on Lincoln Road afterwards. They don't go to the playground because they're already on Lincoln Road. How about on the west side of Lincoln Road, right before Alton? We kind of have that like glass structure, although I was just told that that is very important and historic. What are the thoughts there?
The glass structure in 1100 block?
The one on Washington?
No, it's all the way on the west side, just east of Lincoln Road.
Yeah, that's
like out front of the Brito store.
That's an artistic sculpture. It's on the 1100 block in that area, where we have currently installed in that walkway.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
Portuguese.
so let's see the renderings or the idea that you had for right there. I'm going to guess on the south side of Lincoln Road on Euclid, right? So we have the two configurations of the trees. I think it's right by the Lincoln Center.
That's correct, on Lincoln Lane North, on that Euclid Avenue. And I don't know, we have the rendering there, but it's Exhibit A.
Yeah, so when the scope of the Lincoln Road Master Plan was cut back in '22, part of the cut in scope was actually an addition to explore building a playground in the Euclid right-of-way, which is adjacent to the Euclid Oval, but just south. So that right-of-way was developed in collaboration with Jamic Developing, and the contract goes through fall of 2026. So we would have that space available again, and the plans and renderings are already drawn, which is the Exhibit A.
Also, another added benefit of having a playground here, I believe there's certain rules, and maybe Ernesto can speak to this, that certain individuals with criminal backgrounds can't be near this playground at all times of the day. And now I think it's 1,500 feet, or I'm not sure how many feet they need to be away from a playground, and so that adds another layer of security for individuals, that, for example, sex offenders or pedophiles. We don't want them anywhere near Lincoln Road, and this is another great way to legally make sure that they're not there. If you can speak to that.
Yes, Commissioner Ernesto Rodriguez, Miami Beach PD. Yes, I'd have to explore a little further to see the exact definition of a playground, but in essence, the way you're describing it, yes, seems like you'd kill two birds with one stone, yes.
And could you clarify, so you said this wouldn't be able to be implemented until 2026 because we have a contract for that public right-of-way already?
Correct. So the city entered into a contract in 2014 with Jamic Developer, which is the owner of the adjacent property, to develop that into a pedestrian kind of circle area. That contract exists 10 years from the completion of the project. The completion of the project was 2016. So fall of 2026 is when that project or that parcel becomes available to the city. It would probably, I defer to CIP, but it would probably take us that long to develop the project and be ready to break ground. So,
I guess maybe one thing I'd ask my colleague, would you be open to having staff over the next 30 days explore across Lincoln Road and kind of the side streets where the best place, if we would do some sort of signature playground, where that would be? Yeah, I certainly like the option right here south of Lincoln Road on the Euclid Circle. I was actually there last weekend. I was trying to think even if we would kind of even further pedestrianize the Euclid further south a little bit, because really you just have the two alleyways, and if the two alleyways, would just the one on the west would have western traffic, the one on the east would have eastern traffic, and we could actually expand into the street a little bit if it was pedestrianized, that just really have a larger footprint for a playground. That is just something that I came up with, but I'd love staff to really evaluate where the best spot for. I don't want a seesaw and some swings. I want something that, when people Google the best playground in the world, they're looking at something along these lines.
Mr. Chair, if I could, Interim Director for CIP, David Gomez, if I could expand a little bit on what Daniel was saying. As part of the master plan and design for Lincoln Road, we asked James Corner Field Operations to look at different locations within Lincoln Road and make their recommendations. They identified 3 or 4 different locations. Their recommendation for the best location is the south side of the oval in the section that Daniel was suggesting. They did provide preliminary plans, so it is designed by James Corner Field Operations. The advantage that we have is because it's not tied to the other improvements on Lincoln Road, it can be done as a phase 4 or a separate project that doesn't interfere with the progress of Lincoln Road improvements.
I would be open to that. And I think just south of I'm looking on the map right now, just south of Euclid Circle, I think that'd be a great idea, because you're also kind of like, boxed in on both sides of the two buildings. And then, yeah, you can probably expand it a little more into the street, as you were mentioning, Mr. Chair. So where does that leave us now, that we would give direction for staff to come back and say, explore the feasibility of that location?
Yeah, and what would be the restraints there? There's obviously some developed trees in that area. Would we work around those? Would we look to replace those? What are the thoughts there?
James Corner's plan includes preservation and incorporation of those trees into the playground area.
It's good you want trees in the playground.
So if I can, Chair, the item, I guess, if we have a developed budget, I think this would be the time to discuss the cost of that. And then if we have, a roundabout estimate on that number, the committee could decide if they wanted to move forward to return this to commission with a favorable recommendation to make a budget priority in our upcoming capital budget. Obviously, this seems like it has at least a 2-year lead time for when the land would be developed. So there's even an opportunity to multi-fund this over, maybe the 26 and 27
Mr.
budgets.
CFO, what is the back of the envelope where our resort tax reserves are?
Resort tax reserves? I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I don't recall the resort tax.
We're talking the
reserve
tens
amount.
of millions of dollars?
Yes, we are required by commission policy to have a 50%.
And what do those reserves, the resort taxes, in general go towards? Promoting, facilitating tourism and things like that. So a structure on Lincoln Road, theoretically, whether they be reserves or not, would be able to be funded out of resort taxes, even though it's a capital improvement project, given it's facilitating tourism.
I would have to look more into that, because traditionally those resort taxes are related to operational programs. Because some part of the resort taxes are funded on an annual basis towards capital projects. We have the quality of life, North Beach, South Beach, and Mid Beach, which this might be eligible for. So we'd have to look at that. So if the commission recommends this project to exist, because as of right now, it doesn't exist. Traditionally, if a project is contemplated, it enters into the 5th year of our capital program. But if this is to be a priority, it would be moved to the very first year of the next capital program, and we could determine either one funding source or perhaps a series of funding sources to get us to the dollars. But if perhaps the staff could discuss what the number is, or
The concept prepared by James Corner was done years ago, but we did have a back of the envelope number of in excess of $1 million to do the playground.
For the playground?
Yeah.
so obviously, with cost escalations over the years, it's been more, but whether that's $1.5 or $2 million, but I think it's appropriate for the committee to determine if this is something they want to move forward with and return to commission to make it a priority during our upcoming budget process.
Just to follow up, I just did a little research. It's 1,000 feet. So if we build a playground here, you can't have any sexual predators in the area of 1,000 feet. And then I know there's a lot of vagrants that hang around the Euclid Circle now. So that'd be an added benefit to safety and quality of life.
I support any improvement to any area of our historic district, have an attraction to come to Lincoln Road, and it will be designed by James Corner, correct?
Yes.
And it is not going to slow down this
It will not slow down the Lincoln Road
And
project.
it's going to be spectacular, it really is. So congratulations, Joe, Commissioners Suarez and Magazine.
Yeah, I would say, I don't want to give, and you'll very rarely hear me say this, I don't want to be constrained by saying, here's the budget item to come back. If he wants to show us the rendering of a signature playground there that costs more, we can have that discussion here, right? So I don't want to pigeonhole us and say, well, here's what $1 million gets us. I want this to be an attraction where people are coming to Lincoln Road for this, where we're all proud of this. People are going out to eat at Carnes de Res after they go to the playground, and they're coming there for that. I want this to be our community central gathering place, right? And people are just stumbling on Lincoln Road by a product of being there.
Understood.
So we'll hear this again in, Mr. CFO, you want to?
So this is not to return to commission to make a recommendation, this is to return to FERC?
Yes. Yep.
And we have, you already have drawings of the existing project?
We have preliminary drawings. I'd like to relook at those and talk to James Corner and see if there's some change they want to make so that we can bring that back to you.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll
You
show
wanna
it.
come up real quick?
Yeah, good morning, or actually just barely good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Mickey Morera here on behalf of Mel Schlesser, Lincoln Center, Jamaic Development, the entity with that agreement. Mel wanted to be here. I know he's been active in this area for many years. Unfortunately, he's out of the country. He was ready to be here last month. This was supposed to be on that agenda. He would just like you to consider, no one thinks it's a playground in general, but other locations. A lot of effort was spent in that agreement to improve the landscaping in that area. The vision for that specific area being discussed with him and the bid was always a passive landscape beautified area, and so much has been done to keep it there and manage it. So we just encourage you to please look at also other areas so as not to undo all the work that was already done in that plaza, and that was his position. He'll be here next time. He just asked me to come in last minute because he's out of the country and he saw it was on the agenda.
I'm not tied into this, but if that's the best area,
Yeah.
if that's the best area, I, implore staff to keep an open mind. One thought I even had is if we do pedestrianize the Washington to Collins to Washington, that could be our flagship, but I don't want this to be, 10 years in purgatory. I want Leo over there to be able to play on that, before he becomes a commissioner. So we're going to keep an open mind, but if staff comes back and says this is where we could put a signature playground, what you did here is they're going to be respectful to the existing landscape and work around that. And I was actually at the Lincoln Center. They have that fabulous art design, and I think really we're looking to enhance that area. It wouldn't be a mutually exclusive use. It would draw people to the confines of the Lincoln Center there.
So Chair, we'll show the item was presented and returned to FERC next month to present preliminary drawings. Thank you.
I'm sorry, next month, the memos for next month are due kind of quick. I'd like a little bit more time, please.
Yeah, so we'll show January. Thank you. I believe we have a time certain.
We do. We have a time certain for NB 16. John, do you want to come up and take the rein here for the discussions that we've been having? And then I'm not sure, Natalie, if you could let us know if anybody's online. Louis, if you're able to reach out to the team that we've been working with to let them know we're discussing their item. But John, take this over and tell us where we're kind of going.
Sure, I'll tee it up. Thank you, Commissioner.
Sorry, John, let me just call it an MB 16, discuss potential financing for McKinney's Magical Youth Mission Foundation youth soccer camps with the participation of the U.S. men's national team players, NB 16.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Commissioner, thank you for introducing me and my staff to Corey Gibbs. He's a former U.S. men's national player, and he's an agent as well for many of the top players in the world, including an athlete by the name of Weston McKinney. And we started having some preliminary conversations of, how can we grow this relationship? You just had a conversation earlier about FIFA and all the excitement of soccer, and soccer was already huge in the region. So we just started talking about, how can we start building a relationship and, maybe some future larger projects that I'll let Corey get into if he wants to get into the weeds. But we also started talking about a symposium that Corey, and I don't want to steal Corey's presentation, a symposium that he wants to do where he brings in some amazing talent, and as well as in January, a 3-day, like a youth camp, where it's more of a high-performance camp, but it would be available to, some of our players who qualify to play for that. But if Corey, Natalie, is Corey on the line?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Corey, yes, we can.
Can you hear me clearly or no?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, guys. Magazine and chairmen of the committee. Due to my international travels, I apologize that I'm not there in person, but I want to thank you guys for taking the time for this Zoom. As John mentioned, my name is Corey Gibbs. I'm the president of the CG Invitational, which I want to post to you guys today, and also senior vice president of Wasserman Media Group, which is a sports agency where we're the industry leaders both domestically and abroad. So I'm here today to speak about a long-term partnership with the city of Miami Beach, which I'm a resident of, and a unique opportunity I've envisioned for multiple. So if we could just go to the deck, if you don't mind, and I can speak more about it.
Yep, Corey, go ahead.
So, sounds good. So, with this sport of soccer growing rapidly in the country, I've always envisioned the city of Miami Beach being the prime location where I'm a resident of, as I mentioned. We've seen the youth and men's national teams making Miami one of their homes for their training camps. And my biggest thing is, why can't we do that and bring that awareness to our local youth kids as well? I've always been innovative and want to make a positive impact to these local kids in Miami Beach. And, potentially forming this partnership, we could definitely start that trend. So here we see, obviously, a little bit bio about myself, but, just to take it back a little bit for those who don't know me personally, I was born and raised in South Florida, where I started my playing career at 5 years old. I never had these type of resources or awareness, nowhere like it, like the modern day youth players now. And I truly believe it's my responsibility to not only educate, but to motivate and be a mentor with the experiences that I've also accomplished. All right. So graduating from Nova High School, I attended Brown University in Rhode Island, where I received my degree in business economics while also playing collegiate soccer. So just want to speak about my playing career just a little bit more. As John mentioned a little bit, I'm a former U.S. national team player. There's only been a handful of South Floridians that have made it to a World Cup roster, so I'm very pleased to be a part of that group. And as you see there now, I'm a senior vice president of Wasserman, and I was just voted top 20 global soccer agents around the world. We're, representing these top talents, whether they're old or experienced. Throughout my playing career, I was fortunate enough after I graduated Brown to play 8 years at the highest level in Germany, Holland, England, as you see there. And then I brought my talents back to MLS, literally around the same time that David Beckham signed with the LA Galaxy. So I was fortunate enough to play with him before then moving on to Colorado, New England, and Chicago, where I ultimately retired. Transitioning from my playing career, I decided, you know what? TV personality might be my thing. After a year and a half of doing TV for ESPN, beIN Sports, NBC, Wasserman, who represented me throughout my 12th career, said, listen, we think you can be one of these top agents. I started representing players, and then most notably, one that I have today, arguably the top soccer player outside of Christian Pulisic, is Weston McKennie. So I've been fortunate enough to lead, guide, and mentor these young kids and just bring them to a whole nother platform. Next slide, please. Guys, what I appreciate most about this slide in terms of the sponsors that are supporting this cause that we've chosen by my team strategically is that, they're in line with our vision, right? And goals and long-term plans. I've always believed in quality over quantity and not just bringing everybody on board. So not only do these impressive and high-powered companies believe in the importance of the invitational, all of the higher ups are close friends of mine who serve as mentors for these kids as well. So outside of just representation, it's very important for me because I never really had that guidance in terms of the training aspect of it, film analysis, financial advisors, just guidance throughout in terms of entrepreneurship, because obviously, as we all know, sport is short-lived and there needs to be a career after soccer or any sport for 98 to 99% of these athletes, right? So when we look at these sponsors themselves, the Crack, which was the founders from DeMarcus Beasley, who outside of Landon Donovan's our most prolific soccer player ever to play the game. He runs that. And it helps these kids, right? It doesn't have to be pro players, but the young community and locals be on podcasts and allows these voices to be heard. Daniel, who runs his life insurance, he's a mentor and he brings these kids on when it comes to financial advising and planning in terms of their soccer career. Kevin Kelly from Kitchen and Cocktails,
And
massive
Corey, you know what?
entrepreneur.
Can I just jump in here? Just back to Jenny. Can we get on? I'm sorry to cut you off here, but you'll have time with all my colleagues to maybe who Wes is and essentially the program that you're looking to bring to Miami Beach.
Yeah, no worries. So Weston McKennie, who I've represented since 14 years old, he is now playing at Juventus and is probably U.S. soccer's most prolific soccer player outside of Christian Pulisic. He plays at Juventus right now. His reach has been tremendous in terms of social media. He's been a massive ambassador for multiple sponsorships, including Puma, who's sponsoring this invitational as well. And he literally is like a son to me in terms of not just representation from a business aspect. And Weston has been a massive supporter in terms of this invitational.
Excellent. And then if you could, we have a slide up here looking at the invitational tentative schedule. So if you could just run through your thoughts on what you're able to bring to Miami Beach.
Yeah, for me, it's important to extend my vision that I've always had to not only the pro players, but the local players of Miami Beach. I think it's really important for these kids to envision something and see what, how a pathway can be formed, not just like myself, but the Weston McKennies of the world who were always underrated, who didn't have that belief and that mentorship. And I want to really pitch this to the city of Miami Beach for the local community, for these kids, and just give them that exposure, right? That's the biggest goal that I have in mind. In a short amount of time, I was able to do it last year, my first invitational, where I did in Fort Lauderdale. And the current national team players really gave the exposure for the locals. And my vision was always to bring it to Miami, but I didn't have enough time to do so. Hence the reason that we're on this conversation right now. Really looking for that long-term partnership and have the hub and the base for me and Weston McKinney to be in the city of Miami Beach and let that be the home, especially with the 2026 World Cup coming up in the United States.
Excellent. John, do
And
you
as we
wanna-
see on the,
Yep,
the pro,
yep. Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Corey.
sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
No, so Commissioner, you made a good point. In terms of scheduling, week one, it's set up to be the invitational for the pro players. I really want to thank John in terms of, locking down Flamingo Park as a stadium, as the local grounds, somewhere that I always trained at unofficially. And the sponsors behind that, Good Time Hotel, have been great, the Pele Store and Puma. And then week two, where it really resonates and sits home to me, right? I want to extend my vision now to the youth, right? And give grants and scholarships myself personally in terms of your young kids that you have in, the academies, and extend that same vision, that same training program, the same podcasts and stuff like that, where they really have a belief and a vision that they can also be pros, and give them that hope and be a speaker and a voice and a mentor for these kids outside of just the training aspect of it. So to really grow these kids in Miami Beach to another level. And as we see here at the bottom, last year out of pocket myself for 2023 with the invitation, it was approximately 93K in terms of running the whole thing, funding it. And with it being in Miami and inflation and so forth, the expectation that it's going to be over 100K for sure, to make it really high level, high caliber.
John, do you want to say what the ask is, what we're envisioning, how the youth of Miami Beach are going to be incorporated in what we have in front of us here today?
Sure. I believe we're here to define the ask. With it relates to the youth, Corey and I did speak about it would be the youth camp the second week, and we're looking at 5 to 10 of our players being able to participate in that Corey, tell me if I misspeak, like a high performance camp at no cost to them. And I know that Corey would love to have the facility and any fees waived, and any other type of sponsorship.
Excellent. And then
Correct.
If you could, so we're going to have this camp where, up to 10 players from Miami Beach are participating. Could you just kind of hit home on Corey's points about all that's going to be coming to Miami Beach?
I'm sorry, repeat the last one.
Essentially, as part of this package, all that's going to be coming to Miami Beach,
Yes.
the logistics of that.
Yeah, we've arranged with Corey, Flamingo Park, is going to be, could be the home base for that, between the two soccer fields there. Our soccer program has grown, as you know. It was a commission item. They're playing at a high level. And, with FIFA coming, the excitement, the Ken Griffin, everything that's happening for soccer, and this is all coming down to Miami Beach. So this is an exciting first conversation for a potential relationship.
Excellent. Turn it over to my colleagues. If there's been similar programs, I think North Bay Village has partnered with some of the pro club teams and things like that. Would love to have my colleagues weigh in, but soccer is just the lifeblood. We saw that for the Copa America finals, where having Argentina and Colombia play at the North Beach Band Shell had out thousands of people. The entire streets were packed. This really puts us on the map of, John, correct me if I'm wrong here, but we're going to have U.S. men's national team players that are essentially hosting this camp.
Yes.
Commissioners. Rock, paper, scissors.
I'm just going to say wonderful, love it, support it. Anything we can do to improve to add to our already amazing programming, I'm supportive of.
Yeah, I generally echo that sentiment. Corey, nice to meet you. I'm a fellow Camp Bruno alum, so it's rare to see people like us down in these parts, so hi. So I just want to understand, because I love the idea. We obviously have a growing passion in Miami Beach for for soccer and incredibly talented kids and young adults playing. So it's amazing. I'm just trying to wrap my head around the public benefit. So between 5 and 10 kids or young adults could participate in this. And then, and we're helping to sponsor and we're waiving fees and doing all that. And so what is the additional public benefit? Just the putting of this event on the map and helping bring people here, or am I missing something?
Yeah, essentially, you know, establishing this camp, Weston McKinney's commitment to Miami Beach, and having this as a longstanding relationship. I know that he has a foundation and a benefit that he has done in the past. Corey, if you wanted to kind of comment on that, you know, essentially we're a bit handcuffed here because of the timing. So we wanted to kind of plant our flag in the ground here and then look to expand on this in years in the future. But it would essentially, even though only 10 kids are participating, this would be, if you're a soccer fan, it would be like if you're a football fan having the Miami Dolphins players come and, you know, essentially execute a camp in your backyard.
And so that was one of my questions, like, are people gonna be able to come and watch the camp? And like, if it's at Flamingo Park, can people come and watch in the bleachers? Is it like going to
Yeah,
spring
so if I
training?
could, yeah, if I could just speak real quick. So thank you for all the comments. So just to be very clear, week two's camp, we're hoping around 100 to 125 kids locally. That's what it is. When I was speaking in terms of the scholarship kids, specifically within the academies that you guys have in Miami Beach yourselves, you know, my thought was to scholarship 5 to 10. Now, listen, if I speak to John and we think there's 15 or 20 kids of, you know, quality to the next level, I'm more than open to that, right? I'm all about giving back in terms of the success of these kids. So I'm not capped at just scholarshiping 5 to 10 kids. We can up that number if need be, but the expectation is that the enrollments should be around 100 to 125 kids. That's more than manageable with the staff that I have in terms of overseeing it. And then going to your next question, yes, it's open to the public. I'm all about the awareness and the exposure. We're getting media behind this as well with news broadcasters and newspapers like the Sun Sentinel have already asked about the story behind it. And definitely with the voice of Weston McKinney and being able, whether it be on Zoom or in person, if his schedule allows, he'll be able to speak to these kids, and it's definitely motivational for them as well.
And so this is, you know, year one, because the timing is upon us, and then as it develops over the next number of years, we could potentially expand how this gets incorporated into the community. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. My biggest thing, guys, and just to be very clear, I'm looking for this to be monumental, right? With the relationships that I have globally and Weston has globally with Dybala, Pogba, I mean, the list goes on with the players that he's close with. We want to bring all of these influences into Miami Beach long term. That's the goal. And the start of it to be December 15th, which is in the coming weeks, correct?
Thanks. And I believe that we may have Weston McKinney on. We're trying to figure that out. And John, do we have a recommendation from staff about what the ask is, or that's for us to figure out here?
We weren't able to get that far with Corey because the public benefit, I was explaining that, you know, first of all, we're already in our budget year. There's nothing in the parks budget for this. However, I did identify with him that where I did see the public benefit was the scholarships or the fee waiver for our City of Miami Beach kids to participate in that. The ask is in addition to that, includes the symposium, and that's why Corey wanted to come on, and he and I really spoke a lot about what is the next step. You know, where do we go once we establish this relationship with him, to establish with Weston?
And in my conversations with Corey, you know, he made a good faith effort enough to say, hey, I'm going to essentially pay for this out of my own pocket here. If you're able to come back and provide funding, you know, that'll help cement the relationship. So what I'll pose to my colleagues is, you know, we would provide up to $50,000 for the camp for public benefit and funding, you know, and he's going forward with the camp, so it's not a time constraint. We'll put it in the budget when we can, but I'll put that out there for a vote. And Natalie, if we could recognize the caller. Weston, thank you for calling in. We're all incredibly excited and grateful. We'll turn the floor over to you.
Weston, please unmute yourself.
We do not have a caller listed as Weston on the Zoom. Bring
The
down
Charles
the-
Becker is Weston.
Yeah, it's his assistant. Hello?
Welcome. Please take over, Weston.
Hey guys, no, it's a pleasure to meet you all. Thanks for having me on. I just wanted to hop on real quick and, while I'm here in Italy, couldn't be there myself, just to show my support for Corey, his initiative. It's really near and dear to my heart, mainly because me and him have can you guys hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Something popped up on the computer saying join as a panelist. No, because me and Corey have a history. He took me in as a very young kid and guided me and helped me throughout my career so much. Built a very family connected bond. And just over the years, we've always tried to put our heads together and how we can give back to the community.
And Wes, I'm sorry to
and
cut
he's-
you off there, but if you join as a panelist, we'll be able to see up on the screen.
Okay, okay, sorry.
Hopefully that didn't have us lose you. Okay, I don't want to hold us up.
Yeah,
If you,
Yep,
go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, no. No, because like I was saying, his invitational is unique, and he really cares a lot about giving back and letting soccer grow in the local communities. And I'm looking forward to being a part of the program again this year. And we just wanted to, get on here and express, how important this is for us and for the city and for Miami Beach County and everything, because I'm looking to be a future resident in the future, and I just opened up a charity that I'm, foundation for kids, and hopefully we can collab and I can bring many of my future events that I have into the area as well. So
And
I just wanted to
one
get
of
on
your
and
colleagues,
say-
David Beckham, just bought some property in Miami Beach. There's plenty more real estate for sale. So, we hope to have you not only as a partner, but a future resident. And we would love if, we see you here as the U.S. men's national team hopefully gets a game in Miami in 2026.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Chair, if I may, just hearing a few of the items there, and I want to make sure that we're clear as we turn this back to commission. You had proposed a $50,000. Is that $50,000 cash donation, or is that inclusive of the facility? Because I think, if I could ask the director to get up, there are expenses related to waiver of facility charges and things like that. Is that correct?
Right, whether we can in-kind those or invoice them and they would pay off of their
So
sponsorship.
is it up to $50,000 in kind and facility charges?
In-kind and
Okay, so
cash,
that would
yeah.
be so that would not be really a budget. I don't think we'd have to amend the budget. It would be something that we would just have to absorb it within our expenses and revenues that we wouldn't expect. So that would be beneficial from that perspective. Let me just try to put this. So to return to commission with a favorable recommendation to direct the administration to negotiate a sponsorship agreement for the McKinney's Magical Youth Mission Foundation for youth soccer camps with a resident scholarships and up to $50,000 waiver of facility fees and in-kind expenses.
Well,
Is that what we were
so
thinking?
$50,000 that's inclusive of that, but essentially, if there's a $5,000 or $10,000 facility fee, then the rest would be a cash contribution.
So we
Within that $50,000 is included the waiver of the fees.
Okay, so it would be $50,000, and that would be something like, as the director would have to work out with the breakdown of the in-kind costs, the facility waiver charges, and then the balance would be a cash donation. Is how I'm.
Yep.
Okay, and we'll record it that way. And okay, thank you.
Take a vote?
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Thank you.
John, thanks for all your work. I know your team, had a lot of conversations here. Really excited to have this.
Yeah, very
And
exciting.
really urge my colleagues to come out and participate. This will be great for the community.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And one last thing, because I know Natalie will get on me. Who made the, I'll show the chair made the motion, and the second is? Okay, and Bot will be the second. Thank you very much.
Commissioners, yep.
Isn't it somebody's birthday today? Mr. CFO?
Wow.
So, yes, it is my birthday.
Happy birthday, Jason.
I think it's time
Thank
for
you.
a birthday song.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, everyone. Let's call NB6, the Collins Park Performing Arts Center, next steps. Thank you. NB6, Collins Park Performing Center, next steps, NB6.
Do we have staff, maybe CIP, is David Gomez still here? And Nick, I invite you to come up as well. Raquel. Mr. CFO, this is where I start stealing your thunder, when you don't hop right in. This is where I start reading the item and things like that. I get antsy. Got to move this, the show goes on.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. Raquel Williams, Assistant City Manager. So back in 2021, the city negotiated a lease agreement with Miami New Drama to operate the ground floor space at the Collins Park Garage in the Collins Park District. At the time that was negotiated, the city did not have a budget allocation for the project. And at that time, it was anticipated that the city would contribute $4.75 million for the build out of the project. And Miami New Drama would contribute $250,000 towards the architectural and design fees. Since that time, the city estimated that the cost of the project was about $7.67 million as part of the Arts and Culture Geo Bond, which was approved by the voters. We have been in conversations with Miami New Drama as it relates to requested amendments to the existing lease to incorporate the city's increased contribution toward the project. And Miami New Drama has requested other changes to the lease agreement, and they're outlined in your memorandum. One of them includes that Miami New Drama would rather be able to spend the $250,000 for architectural and design services outside of the requirement to put $250,000 in an escrow account. Miami New Drama is also looking to make some changes to the management of the project in terms of the construction aspect and project management, and our CIP team can speak further to that as well. We have been having conversations with Miami New Drama as it relates to the requests being made. We are mindful of the grant agreements that we have with existing cultural institutions. We do have 3 groups where the city has allowed them to receive a grant for a scope of the work, a portion of the scope related to the Arts and Culture Geo Bond. Miami New Drama is looking to take full responsibility of the construction of the project, and we just want to ensure that the city has the appropriate level of oversight, as this is a city-owned property and the grant allocation or the funding allocation for the project is significant. So, David, you want to join?
Good afternoon, now that it's officially afternoon. David Gomez, Interim Director with Capital Improvements. We have been in various conversations with Miami New Drama and their intended or proposed restructuring of the agreement. It really comes down to the city's level of oversight and participation in the management, at least as far as CIP is concerned, in the management of the build-out. They are proposing the same exact structure that we would have followed, which was to include a construction manager at risk very early on in the design to inform constructability and value engineering as the process or as the design developed. They are proposing the same thing which we would have required, which is a full open book structure on the agreement and on the contracting side of it. What the city would recommend, or what the administration would recommend as part of this, is that CIP continue to monitor the progress and make sure that the project progresses as intended.
Nick, want to welcome you. Before we get into the details here, I want to turn the floor over to you to maybe make an exciting announcement, not only for Miami New Drama, but for Miami Beach.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Good afternoon. Nick Richburg, Managing Director, Miami New Drama. Sure, before we begin, it's exciting to announce that A Wonderful World, the musical that was born at the Colony Theater in 2020 and 21, officially on Monday evening becomes the first show ever to be born in the state of Florida to go to Broadway. So it opens on Broadway on Monday night.
How are the reviews?
They come out on Tuesday.
Oh, they haven't come out, okay.
No.
They come out. Oh, wait, it's coming out, it's opening on Monday.
Opening night is on Monday.
Good luck, good luck.
Thank you.
That's
Flying out
a
there
huge
tomorrow.
investment. What does it cost, out of curiosity, what does it cost to produce a Broadway show like that?
About $20 million. Yeah.
Good luck, Tom.
Make a motion?
Investment opportunity is still open, if anybody's listening. So this is, as Raquel and David mentioned, this is an offer of public-private partnership between Miami New Drama and the city on behalf of Miami New Drama in order to find efficiencies of time and cost here. The goal would be for Miami New Drama to administer the funds through the GO bond granting process, as Raquel said, with all of the financial oversight processes in that program already in place, and then to become the hiring entity for the project with city approvals. We're ready to go with design, architecture, and consultants already in place. The agreements have been shared with the city already. Currently, for us to advance beyond 30% of design development, as David mentioned, the city would have to hire that construction manager at risk. We're told by the city the estimate of time on that is roughly 6 months. We obviously can have the ability to move a little faster on that, and we would hope to shorten overall the scope of the total project by 12 to 16 months. The development construction manager that we have selected and are certain the city would approve of has extensive experience on Miami Beach, extensive experience with civic and arts facilities, and is currently administering a project in the beach funded through the Arts GO bond, so they're very familiar with the funding process through the GO bond.
So maybe, Mr. CFO, I'll ask you, is there a financial impact or financial ask from a budgetary standpoint here? Maybe we would be foregoing some revenue that would essentially come into CIP, but the purpose of this is to expedite the process. There's already GO bond money that's already been allocated. But this is a city-owned property, Miami New Drama. How I equated when we talked, this would be like a commercial landlord that owns a restaurant and they sign Catch as a tenant, and instead of the commercial landlord going through the entire build-out process, they would turn it over to the tenant that takes that on. However, being government, we still stay involved. I think what we talked about is perhaps quarterly updates or monthly, I forget, I'll turn it over to staff, keeping CIP in the process. So one, I want to hear if there's a financial or budget impact, and then two, I want to be sure that we have some safeguards in place. We're essentially handing it over as part of a P3. I don't think very much different than what we're doing with Five Park Overpass, right, where there was GO bond money there, but the city didn't essentially take every part of that process. They handed over the private entity that essentially took on the lion's share of that. It frees up CIP to address some of our other projects. What do we have, 16 projects in the process? So essentially this is just kind of letting them not get caught up in some of the red tape and get out in front of this, and we see how timely it is with some of the great things that they're able to do there.
Thank you, Chair. I don't believe there's any additional expenses here. It's just transferring of responsibility, but I believe the administration does have some concerns, which they can go into a little bit more in depth about delivery of that project.
Correct, and what we would recommend is that as part of that process, CIP would be involved in approving monthly pay applications and generating or receiving both progress reports and reviews. There is a cost to the city to have CIP and staff and that kind of attention, but that's within the umbrella of the cost of the project, so it does not change the overall cost.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me. Reiterate, I'm not on the Finance Committee, just offering my 2 cents, but correct me if I'm wrong, so it would be Miami New Drama that would be hiring their own GC to oversee this project? What's to stop any overruns on the project as opposed to having the city do it?
We would require that at every design submittal and cost assessment submittal, the city would have authorization or approval rights.
So what would be the benefit of having Miami New Drama do the general construction work or the city of Miami Beach?
The speed with which Miami New Drama can contract a construction manager at risk. It would take us approximately 3 to 4 months once we advertise.
So it would just, the whole process would only be saving 3 to 4 months?
As far as I can tell, yes.
But what are the risks involved with that? Assuming there was no time, as taken into consideration, there's a 3 to 4 month a jump start. What are the risks of having an outside vendor manage a city-owned building contract?
It's no different than any risk that we assume with any of our CMR contracts. The CMR is at risk and they have to assume those responsibilities. In this particular project, the as-built condition is fairly well known. It's a relatively new project. We have documents of how the facility was built and where all of the connection points are, so the risk is relatively minor. And as part of that, it would be the construction manager's responsibility to determine all of those unknowns ahead of time.
I thank my big government friend and colleague for his thoughts. Commissioner Bott?
Nick, can you talk about the, when we met, you had a chart that showed the difference in timing and costs. Do you have that available to?
Yeah, I mean, not to contradict David, but in our previous meeting, I think the timeline for hiring of the CMR was more like 6 months, what the group decided. And then obviously throughout the process, there's additional efficiencies that we can find in terms of time because of the, the team and the process of approvals, et cetera. So we think that we can, we can be ready with permitting in roughly the same amount of time that it would take to even complete the hire and the onboarding of the CMR at the city. And then total, we can save 12 to 16 months off the total project. This could become a much longer project otherwise. Obviously, cost overruns a concern for everyone. All of the same safeguards from the original lease agreement would still be in place, the structure, all of that. None of that is up for debate. It's really a matter of if we're the organization administering those funds directly. There's time, there's also some cost efficiencies in terms of overhead that we think we can still find and redirect into the project, which obviously up for negotiation when we develop the details of the agreement, which we would hope to be able to do as quickly as possible and bring back to commission so that we can get started in the next quarter.
I mean, I would be inclined to move this forward and recommend that we let Miami New Drama proceed. I love my colleagues in the city, but this is, we need to make this happen sooner rather than later. It's a vacant, underutilized space. This is not a fly-by-night organization. They are extremely responsible. We are deeply interconnected. There will be guardrails in place and oversight and, all the accountability that's necessary. I don't know why we would slow the roll on this.
Well, thank you for your comments, my small government friend.
It's a topsy-turvy world.
Commissioner Rosen-Gonzalez.
And Raquel wants to speak too.
I mean, given the amount, how many capital projects do we currently have in the pipeline?
I don't have the number with me, but it's in excess of 50.
Okay, they're facing 50 capital projects and they're in the process of hiring people to manage these projects, and you guys are definitely understaffed at the moment, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so given what's going on in CIP, and hopefully we will staff those positions so we can get the projects done, and knowing that, one organization in charge of one project is gonna move a lot quicker than City of Miami Beach that's focusing on 50 different projects and is understaffed, I'm okay with this. As long as the scope doesn't change and, we're kind of working in conjunction and you show us as you're moving along. And my only concern, I'm not saying this about you, is I've seen in the past when we've done stuff like this, that's why we lost the 13 MB CDC buildings, is because we ceded funding to renovate those buildings and those buildings were really done poorly, And we ended up losing the buildings because of it. I'm not saying that this is the situation here. I'm just saying there's situations and there's situations. So as long as there's no change in scope and there's a oversight, which we're going to do, then, I mean, I'd like to move forward with it. I see no reason why not to. I would like to see that space activated and not vacant also, so.
If I could just add that if we are to amend the agreement to allow for this, we could put in some parameters related to the timeline by which Miami New Drama would have to secure, and engage their professionals. And maybe that could help us make sure that we're maintaining the timeline as presented and proposed today. Also.
Happy to do that and to offer city approval as well.
And I also do just want to highlight that going down this path may cause other entities and organizations to seek the same type of arrangement with the city. I just want to put that on the record.
Hopefully you wouldn't cede all that government oversight and control, Commissioner Suarez. So do we have a staff recommendation?
Well, I think the staff recommendation was to not move forward with the lease modifications, correct? But I think
Hearing feedback.
Yeah,
if you
let me give you the motion. I believe your motion, no, please go ahead.
So we want to be cautious and make sure that if we do allow for an amendment that would give Miami New Drama greater responsibilities, we do want to put in some of those guardrails, as Commissioner Bott mentioned. And so we would be happy to negotiate an amendment to the lease agreement that would allow for that.
So taking that into account, because I think there's a proposed lease amendment, but there's some recommendations from the administration to put some additional guardrails in there. So if we can incorporate that, I think the motion that I'm hearing would be to return the commissioner with a favorable recommendation to approve the amended proposed lease modifications and to convert the GO bond allocation into a grant. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And we're good with that. Okay. Who made the motion? Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tier OB5, Washington Avenue.
OB5, discuss beautifying Washington Avenue by enhancing lighting and streetscaping on Washington Avenue. OB5.
Okay. Before we start, I'm very excited about this item because as I was walking Washington the other day, some portions of our streets just look really shabby. And we did this walk. We were actually walking Espanola Way, where it looks so beautiful and the materials are so nice and expensive. And then you cross over, the pathway between Espanola going to Ocean, it looks awful. And we don't even have funding for that, but we do have GO bond money for Washington Avenue. I know that there are many proposals, which I'm trying to stay open-minded about finding something that everybody can wrap themselves around, a height, a density, but in the interim, let's start improving our public area so that as people come in, it looks nice. We have string lights around ourselves? Yeah. String lights, let's not go there with the string lights today. I mean, I know we have to, but it's take two. String lights, take two. So, Jay, I was actually excited to see these numbers because they're not ridiculously high. So, on that note.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, Jay Fink, Deputy Director, Department of Public Works. What was asked of the administration was to return here today with an estimate for sidewalk lighting replacement. That estimate is just over $1.5 million. That price is pretty much bare bones, replace in kind. There's not a lot of enhancement or anything there. It's just the cost. Now, that being the sort of baseline cost, it can go up from there. There have been conversations with the bid and some of the things that they're looking to do. There has been some conversations in conjunction with the GO bond project that makes it a much bigger project. So at this juncture, we're offering this as a number. Obviously, it's part of a ongoing conversation with other enhancements and other conversations that this body has had with Washington Avenue as to what needs to happen out there to enhance it. So we're here just offering a number, and that if this body wanted to move forward with just sidewalk replacement or lighting replacement, then we can go ahead and facilitate something along those lines.
I would like to see a little better material used on the Washington Avenue sidewalks. I mean, there is the pink cement, and then there is like that material that has kind of coquina shells in it. What do we call that? I'm sure it's pricier. But I would like to see something a little bit nicer. We do have this geo bond money there, we have the $10 million. And as you can see on Espanola Way, when you invest in a better quality material, it just looks so beautiful. So I would like, and here, this would be my ask, to come back next month, because let's do it right. I know that I see the bid here. I see Jill Shockett here. If you guys want to come up and say something, could you come back next month with an upgraded material and also the price to add trees to the mix so that it looks like Espanola Way? Because the Espanola Way wasn't just lighting and sidewalks, it was lighting, sidewalks, and trees. So could you come back with lighting, better sidewalk material and trees? And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but wouldn't it be nice to walk down one of our sidewalks that just looks uniform, beautiful? You know what I mean? Clean, because it's a mishmash of everything. I want a material that's gonna last, and maybe you bring us like 3 different options of materials in the sidewalks. So, and how do you guys feel about that?
Speaking of, Maria, can I ask you to come to the podium along these lines? We have geo bond money for the repair of our streets, our sidewalks.
Yes.
That's an issue of itself. I want to get into, because I think, Mr. CFO, you and I fundamentally agree here that we should not be borrowing to essentially pay for ongoing OpEx. We can discuss how we got into that point. I don't want to steal this, but that's an ongoing discussion that we should be having in the public forum. It's Municipal Finance 101. It has nothing to do with anybody in this room here. It's what happened in the past. We essentially pushed out the maintenance of our roads, our sidewalks, and now instead of paying through our ongoing annual operating budget, we're essentially borrowing from Leo to fix our sidewalks and our streets, right? And that is just not how a municipal operation should be run. So I'm glad that we're taking steps to correct that, but if you could, on a better note, tell us what the timeline is for when we could really just, I mean, I drive down 17th Street, and it's not somewhere I'm proud to call, wow, this is one of our gateways into Miami Beach. Washington Avenue, even south of 5th, West Avenue. North Beach,
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
So
really,
when
it
can we
looks
see this wide-scale program?
Thank you for asking that question. We just recently sent out an LTC about this a couple days ago. We provided maps that show all the streets and all the sidewalks and all their locations that we're tackling, and over the years that we're tackling all of it. We're still going to have money left over after that. We might reach a point where, we might reach a point where there isn't much more to do under the program, because we're going to have several $1 million left. But of course, that money's there. Should we want to continue, streets and sidewalks deteriorate over time. So whatever it is that you determine today is needed, of course, that changes in 5 years, that changes in 6 years. So we have that money available right now. The taxpayers of Miami Beach are not getting taxed on that. They're only going to get taxed on what we're using and what we're changing over the next couple of years. There'll be other tranches of funding available. Should we want to use them, we can. If we don't have to. It's up to, of course, you all at that point.
And I guess just simplistically, when will I be able to look out with my own two eyes and say, there's this large-scale program where our roads are being paved, our sidewalks are being fixed? When should I expect to just, with my own two eyes, be able to look out and see that happening?
I think the only thing that you are not going to see, which a lot of times needs to be done, are areas that are going to be part of a big neighborhood improvement. North Beach is a typical example of that. There's a huge project in North Beach, the Project D. And what we don't do, and what you can't do under a GEO bond, is that you can't waste the money. So you can't temporarily pave knowing that a much larger infrastructure project is coming down the road that's going to fix it all. So unfortunately, when those neighborhood projects get delayed or they don't happen, you still see areas that don't look great because they're waiting
West
for those
Avenue.
projects.
Yeah.
West Avenue, perfect example.
Washington Avenue south of Fifth.
Right.
17th is also a project.
17th
to
is
design.
also one of those, very critical. Now, 17th will hopefully have a hotel going up. And really, it shouldn't even be until after the hotel is built that 17th Street gets fixed, because that's going to be the sort of last thing needed to make the whole area great. But that's going to be, I don't know, $50-60 million project. There's a lot of infrastructure that we have to do there. So to the extent that we can do everything we can under the street and paving program, that money is supposed to be used for sidewalks that, are tripping hazards, that are cracked. That's really what that program is for. If you look at the map, you're gonna see that we've done a lot, because we also show everything we've done in the past, as well as everything we're doing this year, next year, and over the next 2 years. So if you look at that map, you can see exactly what we're paving and what we're fixing. And it's a large chunk of the city already. I mean, this has been over 5 years now.
You did Alton Road, didn't you?
We
though
did
that's
not
a
do
state.
Alton Road. That
Oh,
was a project that happened.
I was shocked. My sidewalk was
Yes.
like this, and I came out and it was
Yeah.
even, and I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it.
Oh, yeah, we might have done a few on Alton.
But Washington was done recently as a full repave.
Washington Avenue was done as a full repave because all the striping had changed
saw
over
that, but-
COVID, and it was night and day after that happened, because it looked terrible, and now it looks great.
I know. Well, so Washington, we just did. So because I walked it.
The street,
The
yes.
street. Oh, the street paving. But just that street, just paving that street made such a big difference.
Yes.
It looks so beautiful.
Yes.
So just to bring this back, are you guys okay with having some options for better quality material for the sidewalks, lighting, trees, Washington? I want it to look like one of those beautiful, like Meridian, Yes. Well, I'm not the chair, so I can't say yes.
Sure. Just if we're actually going to go along with these little string lights around the trees, can we make sure that it's the right color? Because right now it's like white. If you walk Washington Avenue in the evening, it's more like an amber color or like a lower temperature.
We want the
If
ones
I-
that change.
if I-
Like
if I
on
can add, I
Valentine's
believe-
Day, they're red, they're green at Christmas. They're, we're gonna have really cool lights. You were gonna walk down Washington and you were gonna say, I want these lights at my house. That
Chair.
is what you are going to say to yourself.
Sorry, Chair, if I can add, this is actually like a bifurcated item. That item already went to commission. The part that's here is really related to not the string lights, but the, when would the sidewalks be repaved and when would the street level acorn lights be done? But what if I'm hearing from the committee is they would like it to come back next month to see what would the total project cost be, not with just an in-kind replacement on the sidewalks, but what would be a material or two option and what those costs would be, and landscaping. Now, I don't know if they can put that together, and I'm thinking the landscaping in the next 7 days because of the compression of the next FERC, but if it's acceptable, staff can work on that and return at the next appropriate when they have that ready, and I'm looking at Public Works, is that?
I mean, you're
'Cause
already
the re-
pricing it out for Ocean. We did approve a better quality material for Ocean, so I would suggest that whatever you're using on Ocean, let's use on Washington. And then, you know, the sad part about this is we've got Collins in between, and that's just forgotten because it's state. We really should reach out to FDOT, and, you know, as part of this, and maybe this will be a future resolution. I don't know how we make that happen, so that Ocean, Washington, and Collins are all uniform with the same material. In your opinion, how difficult would that be to make that happen after we do Washington on Collins?
I think I could add to that. If that's a DOT road,
no money,
it won't be a DOT cost. Usually any time you do an upgrade on another agency's facility, you would be responsible for those costs and then the maintenance ongoing. So you would have ownership of that. And I believe the Collins Avenue sidewalks are ours anyway.
Well,
are they ours?
It's not part of the GeoBond.
Right, it's not part of it. So what we're talking about here is this on Washington have its own specific $10 million allocation of the GeoBond is voted by the residents. So just from the Washington perspective, the only other question I want to make sure from Public Works perspective, I think that the materials may be relatively quick. It's on a landscaping. If the recommendation is to basically develop a landscaping master plan for Washington, that would probably want to have to go back to commission to get direction because you would have to engage with landscape architect. Or is that something that can be done back of the cocktail napkin with green space?
So through you, Mr. Chairman, I mean, what I'm hearing is that instead of a sidewalk replacement, a lighting replacement, we're looking at a Hans project that would lend itself going into the GEO bond, which would be a much bigger envelope. The other thing that we're cognizant of is the Washington bid is putting together some plans for enhancing the corridor, some arts and public places and some other things, and I don't want to speak for them, but I know that they're looking at what can they do as well as part of that possible bond project to enhance the corridor. I think whatever we do, city side, we need to make sure we're doing it in conjunction with them so that it does blend together. It's not done piecemeal. When we start talking about landscaping plans, enhanced materials, then we really want to probably engage an engineer that would help us.
I just want to get something done because now
Well,
we're
we
going
wanna do-
into something massive with drainage. Okay, let's say that we replace the sidewalk with a better material and we put in the lighting, correct?
Can do that.
Can we go back and do trees after? Yes? Okay, so let's
wanna-
move forward with what we have approved, and
Let's see if it
we're gonna bring a different item to replace trees and consider a landscaping plan for the future, so that we don't stop where we are right now. And would you guys consider sending an item to commission to allow for a landscaping plan for Washington too, and we all sponsor it, or are you not? Do you want me to wait until December?
Commissioner, if I can add, the item actually talks about lighting and streetscaping, which landscaping could be there.
Part of
So-
streetscaping, so we don't have to.
So if the interest is, it could be returned to commission, you know, with a favorable recommendation to have the administration, you know, develop a Washington Avenue plan that incorporates new sidewalks, replacement of in-kind lighting, and a streets,
But at the same
landscaping
time,
plan.
for the same reasons Maria noted that West Avenue hasn't been paved for 20 years, and 17th Street hasn't been paved, and 5th Street south of Washington Avenue, I don't want to hold up these projects just because we create something that's pending, right? I want
we're-
to move forward with this to get something in the ground, figuratively.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to create quick wins.
Yes.
That's really what it is.
Yes.
And we have done that, and we can do that. We just have to be careful that we don't undo something, you know, that's always like the concern.
We don't want to undo anything.
Right, we have
Just-
to go forward,
So
never
then,
backwards.
what do you guys suggest? Can you, by the next meeting, could you just take the sidewalk pricing and give us the other, so do you need more time? How much time do you need?
What does it do? This one?
We don't have a lot of time for the next,
Can I request or suggest through you, Mr. Chairman, that we come back in January with some
January?
cost, some plans,
Okay, plan.
a timeline?
Plans. Okay. So January, and we will have like a full plan of how we're going to do it, and once we approve that plan, how long do you think it would take to get going since it's funded?
money would not be the issue, but what is your workload?
Good afternoon, Giancarlo Peña, Assistant City Engineer. One of the concerns that I want to bring to the board is ADA compliance as well, because, you know, if we're gonna just, there's some areas that we have encountered for other projects in the city as 41st now that we're dealing with changing the sidewalks, is like, we have a lot of ADA compliant issues. Sidewalks have a bigger slope that they're allowed to, and that's something that staff would like to fix as we do this project. So that needs to be identified as well, so we can, you know, continue with the project, repair the sidewalks, but at the same time, try to correct that, because we're not gonna come back to replace those sidewalks in, you know, I would say 30 years from if we do it now. So that's something that I would like us to review and make sure that we can correct it if possible.
Okay, but not at the expense of like a tree or something. I've seen us like, don't pull out anything that we currently have or, okay, fine, yes, whatever you say, yes. Okay,
So if,
so.
so if it is, so,
January?
Commissioner Bott wanted to chime in.
So just two things. One, I appreciate, I think we all share a sense of urgency to correct things that have been languishing for years, decades, millennia, who knows. But, you know, once again, I find myself saying, you know, haste makes waste. And our sidewalks all over the city are abysmal. They are too narrow in places. And this is not a you thing. I'm not like throwing stones, but, you know, we have poles that have been put in by various entities that block access. They're too narrow. They're street signs. They're just an absolute tragedy. So I would encourage us to take an extra month. I mean, you know, and get it done correctly. And while I have you guys trapped at the podium, I was just looking at the LTC, and it's slightly off topic, but if you'll indulge me for a quick second, that stretch of Collins in North Beach, kind of like from 67th up to 73rd, is some really awful sidewalks. And 65th, I think, going down a little bit. Those sidewalks are terrible. And I keep hearing, well, somebody, contractor X or some building developer or FPL or somebody else is doing work there that like just never really gets finished. And so somebody will report something, somebody from the city will figure out what the problem is, but how do we make sure that the projects that are undertaken by other people get finished and that we have a checklist? Ideally, we would redo all those sidewalks. It doesn't look like they're being done now, and I'll have that conversation offline so I can understand. I'm sure there's a plan that I'm just not getting. But how do we make sure that we make the best of what we have? Because there's constantly debris or mismatched finishes or, you know, semi-soft asphalt that sticks up or things, you know, pylons and barricades and crime scene tape used as caution tape. Not because they're crimes, but because that's what's there, you know. Again, I know it's an off-topic thing, but it's tangentially related. So how do we fix that?
Well, as part of the public works department, we have the right-of-way management. So we do have inspectors that go around to exactly for that. Once we have work happening in the right-of-way, we have a right-of-way permit associated with it, and that needs to be closed off from our section. So we do inspections, final inspections for, you know, finalizing sidewalks, driveways. So we do have the inspectors. We try to, you know, complete those. But as you said, there's a lot of construction, and sometimes, you know, there's construction that takes longer than anticipated, and that's, you know, they're not repaired as accordingly to the specification. So we try, you know, to enforce, and we can enforce if that's the situation. We can, you know, put a citation, talk to code, and then from there it needs to be repaired.
So that enforcement comes from Public Works, not from code?
Public Works inspector goes to the site, inspect it, and if it's not a compliance, he will call code, and code will put the inspect. It's a joint, you know, joint collaboration.
Okay. So let's have a conversation offline about this all, because I have a few questions.
So, are you guys okay with this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to mention, in addition, and then we're gonna wrap it up, Commissioner Suarez, but, I don't think it's too late in the legislative cycle, given that they haven't even had a committee meeting yet, to ask the state of Florida for funding for Collins Avenue from 5th to 15th to do the same type of beautification. How can we get that done now? Do I have to bring forward a resolution?
Kristen, why, sorry, Commissioner Rosen Gonzalez, why just 5 to 15? Why not Collins Avenue all the way up. I mean, they're,
'Cause I
they're,
just want to, like, I want to make that one area, start there and like make it uniform. And then, yes, there's a plan in place right now.
that stretch of North Beach is abysmal. It looks like, you know, it looks like a city trying to rebuild after a war in some places.
So-
It's really bad.
Okay, so could we submit for this legislative cycle a request to the state of Florida that we would like funding for decorative sidewalks from 5th to 15th? And I think that they will be in agreement that, you know, we want Washington, explain to them that we're doing Washington, we're doing Ocean, we can't ignore Collins. And then all the way up Collins, but there's a project already in the pipeline for Mid-Beach, but additional funding to replace and repair sidewalks, because they allow us to do that, don't they? They allow us to replace their sidewalks upon demand sometimes, especially if there's some sort of danger to it.
I'm not sure. I mean, this is something that we would need our Traffic and Transportation Division to
would
opine
you-
on. We have not changed any sidewalks on any of the county roads, as far as I know.
It's a state.
I think that was the purview of that agency.
I don't
I mean,
think we
I would
have on the
ask
map.
permission, okay, so
It's their jurisdiction. We would have to ask them, but it would have to be through our Traffic and Transportation.
okay, so forget that. I'm gonna meet with FDOT myself and see if I can convince them to move forward with something in the future. And
Usually, if we work with an FDOT right away and we change something like sidewalks, we'll take that responsibility. Basically, we'll maintain and that's what we may be doing for 41st Street as well. We're working on 31st and we'll take that and maintain. So it's an additional asset that we have to be responsible for because they have certain materials that they use, concrete, and they don't like to deviate from the approved list that they have. So that's something like you said, we can request and see what they ask for, but that's usually how they say.
If I
They
could
treat
add,
us.
and if I could add to that, Commissioner, and that gets back to the point I made earlier, is once you touch another government's assets effectively, it becomes your liability kind of going forward. You then own your neighbor's asset, as it were, from the concept that.
I mean,
it'll
I
be a-
think we
but
need
if-
to own that stretch of Collins because we want to make it look beautiful we want to beautify from 5th to 15th and incentivize property owners to beautify.
I think
So I don't know how to make that happen, but as part of the motion to come back, we're going to have a meeting in the interim with FDOT. Commissioner Bott, would you like to join the meeting so we can talk about the state of Collins sidewalks with FDOT? We'll have a sunshine meeting that I know everyone loves. Okay, so we're going to organize a sunshine meeting with FDOT in the interim to see what we can do and what we need to do for this legislative cycle, and then come back in January with the plan for Washington Avenue. Yes?
So if I can, just for
That's it.
this item related to Washington, I believe the item, will show the item presented, and staff was requested to return with an updated cost and a plan including upgraded sidewalk materials. Thank you.
Hi, Troy Wright, Executive Director, Washington Avenue. This is music to our ears. And I just want to say thank you so much for being invested more now than any other commission in Washington Avenue. If we blink and look back 5 years ago, there was no Good Time Hotel, there was no Moxie, there was no M2, there was no Queen, there was no whatever. And so the changes that you're considering today and the improvements is really, we're really thankful because I did something when I first started Washington Avenue to try to get a grip of what was going on, and that was I met with every single business owner on Washington Avenue from 5th to 17th and asked them their main concerns. And I think over the time, it was safety and lighting and beautification, and so now we're going in the right direction. So I just want to say thank you for forward thinking and your contributions to Washington Avenue.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jill Shockett. I was born and raised in this city. And Commissioner Bott, I live in Normandy, Isle, so I agree with you about Collins. But I have to say, Washington Avenue is a main thoroughfare for our city. And you're talking about enhancing the buildings with the pastel, beautiful colors. The street needs to be lit. 41st Street is lit. Meridian around the park. I mean, we're putting money into soccer fields and things that are just for one specific really group. But we're talking about an entire city with Washington Avenue. And this man, he's one of the hardest working men I know. He does not stop, Troy. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Mr. CFO, can we bring this in for landing?
Yes, that was, I just showed
Or
the.
have you already?
Yes, I
Okay.
just showed the item presented, and the staff was requested to return in January with an updated cost and a plan timeline, and to include the upgraded sidewalk material.
Okay. Let's move on to OB3. Batman, Catman.
OB3, a resolution of the mayor and city commission of the city of Miami Beach, Florida, directing the city administration to prepare a plan and a cost estimate for trapping and spaying or neutering all community cats within Miami Beach over a period of 6 months, with the plan to be presented to the Finance and Economic Resiliency Committee, FERC, at its July 26, 2024 meeting, OB3.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this item started months ago, and we were directed to hire a 6-person team to go through the first phase of counting and determining what that population of cats was. Funding became available October 1, and so we are here giving you a status report. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Holly Whalen, who is our cat program coordinator.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. We have completed the first phase of creating the maps for the cat trappers, the cat counters. The cat counters have been selected. We're working with recruitment now, and all of the contracts were sent via DocuSign, and they're waiting to be signed off on them. I did want to show you a sample of the maps that were created by our new cat trapper, Joanna. She's done a great job. And so this is like one of the maps in all the areas. We have reached out to our team of registered feeders. So on the pages you'll see here, they have the locations, all the contact information, so that they'll be able to work with the feeders to get a better count. One of the things that we are still researching is technology to incorporate to be able to reach the areas that are like private residence, private condo buildings, and the dunes that people can't actually get into and have eyes on them. So we need to have some sort of maybe infrared technology in order to count those, although we're not going to be able to tell if they're ear-tipped or not. Okay? And then, we expect after the procurement of the counters are complete, it'd be 2 to 4 weeks before we'd be able to start. And then once all that is done, we can move on to the next stage.
Okay, excellent.
No question. If I may, question. Really dumb question, but never stops me. If you need infrared counters to be able to see what's going on in the dunes, Ernie, does the police department have any equipment that could be used to help see what's going on there?
I'm sure we can come up with a solution. Hi, Ernesto Rodriguez again. I'm sure we could come up with a creative solution to temporarily assist.
That'd be great. We'll have a cat patrol.
Ernesto will be.
Okay, excellent. So
Thank
anything further to do to close this, or?
I believe that, this is really just an update, and to return, I think the appropriate would be to just show the item presented as an update and return at the appropriate time.
Well, we will return once the count is complete, which will be in a matter of 6-8 weeks.
So it might be a January or February, but if it would be best if we could leave it up to staff to bring it back at the appropriate time, it would probably be the January or February timeframe.
Excellent.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
And here, one more final item. I know staff has to get to some pretty critical meetings. NB4, Lizette, could I ask you come up and present here? We could kind of speed through this.
Sure. NB4, discuss the creation of an artistic recycling program, Miami Beach, that accentuates the signature style of the areas of Miami Beach, south, mid, north, etc., and can potentially double as used for brand awareness and promotion opportunities, NB4.
Zed, I'll turn it over to you. My vision here was, I think there's a famous receptacle in Portugal where it is a giant fish and it's used as a recyclable on the beach. So it almost serves as an art in public places, but then also creates awareness for a very noble cause that Miami Beach is at the front and center of, especially given our proximity to the ocean, and a lot of waste that is not recycled could find itself in the ocean. So Lizette, let's see what you came up with.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, or good afternoon. Lucila Arrogante, Director of Tourism and Culture. This is a really feel-good item. Yes, you gave us an image of a fish that you just described that holds recyclable bottles in different cities, throughout the world. We haven't done that here in Miami Beach, so it was fun to kind of really look into this. It really opened the opportunity to have a private-public partnership. We had high-level conversations with Moonlighter Fab Lab and with Clean Miami Beach. They're super excited. Moonlighter Fab Lab would construct out of recycled materials, some type of artistic fish or, some kind of type of image, and then Clean Miami Beach would do some programming like beach cleanups and utilize that receptacle. We want the timeline that you see before you is aiming to launch in April 2025, which is Earth Month. So it would be, make a lot of sense and synergy there. And we would possibly do some programming to celebrate Earth Day in partnership with our colleagues in environment and sustainability. And we propose to have this up for 2 months as a temporary pilot program. And then, because we would have to, deinstall it before hurricane season, and we could possibly do another, recap of saying this is X amount or how many pounds of recyclable materials were captured. So it's a feel-good item. It's has an educational component. I think it'll be fun for people to see some type of artistic receptacle that would encourage them to recycle on the beach. And before we need to identify funding. We've given you an initial amount, about $10,000. This is from high-level conversations, but we present this to you today for review and approvals. I think I said it pretty quick.
Mr. CFO, and I'm trying to pull it up, but my computer just was having a hard time. Is there a rendering of what you're thinking? I know that you worked with some of our partners in the city that also incorporates, some students and things like that, like the Moonlighter Lab and Fab Lab and things like that. Did we have initial renderings of what something would be able to look like?
So we looked at different artistic recycling receptacles, and they seem to all use kind of like this fish kind of image, and I think, it's appropriate. So I think we were looking at something similar to that, something sea inspired.
And where did you have pinpointed for a location?
No, so that we would like to have stakeholder input for the potential location. Obviously, whether it's Loomis Park, where exactly would that be? We'd like to hear feedback from all of the stakeholders in the neighborhood.
And are we talking about just one location for the pilot program?
Yes, just one receptacle.
Could we not do something in Loomis Park and also do something in front of Altos Del Mar Park or up in North Beach? I mean, we've got this gorgeous new space coming up with Ocean Terrace. That walkway will be open by, God willing, by April of next year. That playground up there with the pirate ships is super well utilized. I love all the stuff we do in Loomis Park, but there's no reason to exclude, especially with such a small cost as this, a secondary location for this kind of a pilot program. Especially, we've got the North Shore Open Space Park as well. There's so much sea life and habitat that we're trying to protect. I would really like to encourage my colleagues to fund a second location in North Beach.
I'd be very supportive. Is that possible?
Well, we would have to, this is based on just one one receptacle at 10,000, so we would have to double that.
Yeah, again, I'm simple, but if we just double it, I guess it's 2 locations?
Yes, but we would need to identify where that would come from. We don't, it wouldn't be AIPP. This is not considered a work of art.
If I can, just, like most of the items that come through FERC, when there's not a funding mechanism available, as we just went through our budget process, the administration's recommendation is always that if this isn't something that would be of interest, to be added either as an enhancement or a priority enhancement during the next year's budget process. That's always the administration's recommendation. Thank you.
I have a question for Raquel, not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. As our wizard of the North Beach CRA for as long as we have it, can we fund something like this from the North Beach CRA funds?
So one of the goals of the North Beach CRA is to promote cultural tourism, and we can utilize art as part of tourism and branding of the CRA district, so yes.
Okay, well, there you go, that's our part funding.
If I may, then if maybe perhaps the recommendation would be to go back to commission with a favorable recommendation to engage with, I guess, the North Beach CRA to fund a North Beach pilot project, and the South Beach one could be made a budget priority during the 2026, and this one would get the leg up.
Yeah.
Well,
And Elizabeth,
for North Beach, that item could go to the North Beach CRA board. Funds are currently available.
Okay, so maybe perhaps thank you, Raquel. Maybe perhaps the recommendation is to go back to commission, favorable recommendation to be referred to the North Beach
CRA board.
CRA board for consideration.
But I don't want the Lummis Park one to be delayed by a year, over 10 grand.
If I may, through the chair, that was just a recommendation. We really have not identified a location, so we can just do North Beach for right now, and if it's successful, we want to do this as a pilot again, we can do next year something in South Beach.
Because I think that's the administration's recommendation, is really to start with one location and kind of see how it works, get a better idea of the cost, the rollout and everything like that. And then it may not be one, it could be 20. I mean, it could be something every year there's an annual allocation. So if there is a possibility of starting in the North Beach location, because there's possible 25 funding, I think, going back to commission to refer it over to the North Beach.
yeah, I like that. Yeah, I wasn't tied to any specific area, and I agree that we need to put our money where our mouth is for North Beach. So I think that would be fabulous.
Okay,
thank you.
Fab lab.
So we'll show it as returning to commission the favorable recommendation to refer to the North Beach CRA board for consideration of this item.
When would that,
Should it just go straight to the board and
Yeah,
bypass the commission?
can't do? Can we do that?
This is where I would ask the city attorney to opine in.
No. Needs to go to commission. Commission could refer to the board.
So but we could add it to the November meeting, because it's just a referral to the CRA board. And then it could go to the December CRA board meeting.
It would be a C7 consent.
That's fine.
I'm not sure, but we'll figure that out.
This can go on the 20th agenda, and then
Yeah.
it'll be heard at the December CRA board.
Yeah, I think we'd love to have it for Earth Day in April.
Yeah. And it follows on what you guys did for Earth Day North Beach last year, where you had that great big fair. Remember, Amy came up and spoke, and everybody brought their families, and it was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I know we have some time commitments at 1:30, so why don't we wrap things up? Yeah.
Sounds good. And the last item, if I can have the motion maker in the second on the
Yeah,
artistic.
I'll second. And Commissioner Bott, motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Excellent. Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing none, adjourn. Thank you.